Are hardened in cynical contempt of human life and values.
WTSF TV6 Pittsburgh. Tonight, the terror continues with the broadcast television premiere of Region Free Part 2.
Watch or be punished.
Please, don't hurt me.
Happening and it freaks me out.
Oh, it's stone gas, man.
All right, and we are live. How is everybody out there on this Thursday night? Hope everybody's doing well. Can you all hear me? All right, I believe we are coming through loud and clear. I will go ahead and introduce the cast here. I am, of course, your old buddy Pizzell, and joining me tonight, actually making his triumphant return, or should I say his introductory appearance on Region Free. An old face, but a beautiful one. A very familiar voice. The Professor, B-Movie Mike. What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? You got the old part right. The beautiful? I'm not so sure about that, you know. Maybe with your glasses off.
How you been, man?
You know, hanging in there, doing my thing, busy, just getting through it like everybody else. But, you know, I try to go through life with a smile on my face, because if you're not smiling, you're not living right, man.
I agree. It's good to see you. It's good to hear you. And it's great to have you back, man.
It's good to be back. I know my schedule's kind of crazy. I might not be able to make every show, but I will be here when I can, and I will have a great time while I'm doing it.
Oh,
it's good
very
stuff.
Cool. Yeah, right on, man. Glad to have you back, man. Also joining me tonight, Christian. What's up, Christian? How you doing, man? Sipping from the Freddy mug.
It's a little gaudy, but you know, can't help myself. Yeah, what's going on, man? It's a beautiful Thursday evening in North Louisiana. It's good to see Mike here. It's been a while. Mike, I tell Piz and everybody, you remind me with your pop filter and everything. You remind me of that show Home Improvement, the neighbor that's over the fence, and you just see half his face. I'm not sure what the bottom half of you looks like,
You're not missing much.
but yeah, ready to rock and roll. I'm just ready to rock, ready to have a good
All right,
time.
cool. All right, cool. Also with me tonight, Jay the Stingray. What's up, Stingray?
What's popping, guys? Looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Kind of decompress a little bit. Forget about the worries in life, and let's get spooky.
Sounds good. What are we drinking tonight, Jay?
I guess it's black silk.
Ooh, black silk. I like that.
Folgers, I think.
I like that. It's been so long, I forgot to ask Mike, what are you vaping?
The old standby, but Gem Monster, strawberry being my favorite. They came out with some new flavors, and I've been rocking the peach lately, which is amazing. I haven't tried the banana, but I'll get around to it, but the peach is amazing.
Very cool. All right, very cool. Also with me tonight, Jamie. How's it going, Jamie?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you for joining us tonight.
No problem. I love being here.
Right on. Right on. Also with me, the pride of the Great North, Ryo Magnifico. Ryo, what's up, man? You're muted, Ryo. Let me see if
you should just kick me off the show. Just kick me off the show. I'm the worst.
You were basking in that praise. You didn't even
realize. I did.
I
enjoyed every second of it. And at the exact moment, like some vape hit the screen, and I was just like, I'm feeling these vibes. Yeah, looking forward to the show tonight as usual. We got some great Halloween content up for everybody, and I just pour myself a little pumpkin ale right now and get started.
All right, sweet. Awesome. Some pumpkin ale.
Pumpkin ale. Yep.
Very nice.
Some pumpkin in there somewhere. I'm sure it's healthy for you in some regard. Cheers.
Yeah, it's vegetables.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Close. Also with me tonight is Lauren. Lauren, how's it going?
It's well. It's all year long. This year has been nothing but a roller coaster of all dark things, mean spirits, and the absolute most paranoia we've had as a country and as a probably planet in my lifetime. So let's enjoy Halloween, which does all those things right.
Yay.
I agree. Very, very well said. And last but not least, we have got Stone Gassman. What's up, Stone?
Good evening. Good evening from New York City. Hope everyone is safe and well tonight. Happy B-Movie Mike, welcome back, man. We missed you around here, and I think we're all looking forward to a kick-ass podcast tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
yes,
we have got a lot to discuss tonight. This is, of course, our Halloween special. So I would like to just say a couple of shout outs to people in the chat before I turn the floor over to the rest of the cast: the Daily Ghost, Joe Bob Tarheel, Alice Asperia, Lance Lust, John McCullough, Joshy's got a gun. I'm scared. Big Crack Rock, Jess Graham. Hello, Jess. Gary North, Mark Striano. Got a lively chat going on already. Media Dude 95. Captain Halloween, my buddy Keith. How's it going, man? Yeah, lively chat tonight. Andrew's in the chats. Andrew, Mr. McNugget, how's it going with you?
Nuggets.
Yeah, we've got a lively chat going on. Hope everybody's having a good night. To celebrate the return of the legendary B-Movie Mike the Professor, class is in session. We're turning the floor over to the professor himself, B-Movie Mike. How's it going, man? What do you got for us tonight?
Well, just a list of things I've been watching lately. Due to the lack of new content and, in the past couple of years, the lack of good new content, I've been reaching back into the yesteryear to try to brush up on some classics that maybe I forgot about or just, haven't watched in a while. And like I told Lauren on his channel, like in July, I think, when I made my appearance on there, I've been I rediscovered Svengoolie, which is the late night movie host that I grew up with in the Chicago area. He's on MeTV Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and he shows all the the great bad old flicks. And a few of the ones I've been enjoying on his broadcast lately have been Tarantula from 1955, classic. I mean, you can't go wrong with stuff like that. Peter Cushing and Island of Terror, just a gloriously bad, awesome flick. Highly recommend that one. And actually, there's another channel, Movies, just called Movies. You can look it up on like moviestvnetwork.com. They're having a Peter Cushing-a-thon on Monday, and that's one of the films that's included. Starts at 8 p.m. So if you want to watch some, some good stuff from yesteryear, definitely recommend that. Dr. Cyclops from 1940. Now, one thing I forgot was how inventive some of these movies are. You can, once you get used to the modern day special effects, you think those old ones are, janky and ridiculous. Then you go back and watch them and you're like, wow, what they did with nothing is very, very impressive. You have to kind of like separate yourself from what's possible now and try to think about what was possible then. And some of the things that they did in those movies is just, it had to be mind blowing to audiences of the day. Because they achieved some very cool effects with nothing. Dr. Cyclops was one of them. It was for 1940. It was in color, and they did really good. They shrunk the cast down and had the big sets, and that was really cool. I really enjoyed that one. Of course, the original Blob. Now the remake, of course, is near and dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite remakes from the 80s. But the original still has a charm to it that I think makes it watchable, and the theme song's pretty groovy. Black Scorpion and Them was a double feature I caught on Movies last night. Them is one of my favorite sci-fi giant bug movies from the 50s, and Black Scorpion's a close second. That channel is really kicking ass this Halloween season, and if you're tired of the usual stuff, if you've seen Freddy 1,000 times or something and you just want to see something cheesy from the old days, I'd highly recommend you check out those two channels. Some good stuff. And of course, Shudder. I'm not paid by Shudder, so it's going to sound like this is a paid advertisement, but I really, really love that service. And of course, Joe Bob's got a show tomorrow night, October 23rd, 9 p.m. Joe Bob's Halloween Hideaway. I'm sure that's going to be a blast. I've been enjoying a lot of his content. Glad to see him back. I remember him from, of course, the Movie Channel. I've been on board with him since he first started doing the horror show hosting duties before Monster Vision, before any of that stuff. Consistently funny and entertaining. And so I'm looking forward to that show tomorrow night. The movie I wanted to talk about, we talk about a lot of slasher flicks. We've talked about them in the past ad nauseum. Halloween was a very ripped off flick, and we've talked about all the franchises that were spawned in its wake. But earlier in the decade of the 70s, The Exorcist was another high quality horror flick that spawned a genre and had multiple ripoffs. One of them I've watched recently, and it's so bad it's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a horrible movie, but I loved it. It's from 1975. Well, depending on what you look at, it's either 74 or 75. And it's got multiple titles. Of course, it's an Italian production. And I'm a sucker for Italian horror flicks. I can't help it. It's called Beyond the Door. It's also known as The Devil Within Her. Man, it's the exteriors were shot in San Francisco. The interiors were shot in Rome. And of course, all the cast is speaking different languages, dubbed in English. The dubbing is out of sync most of the time. It's got this glorious Italian imitation of like a 70s funk soundtrack. It's awesome. The baby within her is the devil's child, a la Rosemary's Baby. So it's kind of a mashup of The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby. and crazy shit happens, and it is like so funny. I think probably unintentionally, but just because of the filmmaker's perspective. But there's a 10-year-old girl in there that's got a sailor's mouth, and she just talks jive better than most adults. It's quite hilarious to hear the 4-year-old boy and the 10-year-old girl have a conversation, because it's like a conversation adults would have, complete with language. And there are some cool set pieces in it, though. I don't know if there's any real creepy moments or scares. I guess there could be considered that, but I really enjoyed it. There's pea soup. You can't go wrong with that. There's spinning heads. There's profanity. There's devil voices. It's got everything you would want in a horrible Italian ripoff of The Exorcist. And it's on Shudder right now as well. So you can check that out if you have Shudder. I think it's a great flick. I do highly recommend it. Just because it's so bad, it's awesome. And that's kind of what I had for tonight. And I turn the floor over to somebody else.
Right on, man. Very nice. Very nice. And Monty has joined us. Monty, what's up, man?
Hey, Mr. Piz and my panel. How are you lovely people doing tonight?
Good.
What's going on, man?
Oh, man. Another beautiful night in Ohio.
Absolutely. Right on. Well, thank you for that, Mike. Definitely, Beyond the Door. It's been a while since I've seen that one. And it's something else.
Mike, does the kid drink soup in a straw in the beginning of the movie?
Straight out of the can.
That is, I remember that, and I was like, "This is the most disgusting thing I'm watching." But in the movie, that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. In a car, drinking soup with a straw out of the can.
It's not even split pea. It's just green pea soup.
Disgusting. So,
yeah.
You think the girl spitting out pea soup is disgusting? No, the kid drinking it with the straw in the heat in a convertible is twice as gross. But I
love the part where she goes grocery shopping. She just leaves the kids in the car. She's like, "Oh, I'll be back." And she goes in. There's like a long sequence of her picking out groceries, and the kids are just in the car chilling in the parking lot. The 70s, man. That was another thing about the movie, was that the clothes, the music, the cars. I was really, really young when that movie came out, 6 or 7, but I still kind of remember that. So it was kind of like taking me way back to my childhood. And things like that did happen. We rode in the back of pickup trucks. We didn't wear seatbelts. We waited in the car while our parents went in shopping. I mean, that was just life, and we didn't think anything of it. I mean, nowadays, that would horrify people.
My dad, don't touch the shifter. Don't touch the shifter while I'm in the store.
That
was my dad.
And forget about cracking the window. You just you either survived or you didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would ride on the back dash. Like I would just be up there. That'd be I'd chill on the back dash. Like
true survival of the fittest, man.
Yeah. Here you go, little Mikey. Here's your soup, buddy. There you go. You drink that.
And if you really love foreign Exorcist ripoffs, there's a film that exists under even more titles that is known as in America widely as the Eerie Midnight Horror Show or La Sexorcisto. And I really recommend that simply because it's just heaps and heaps of the most disgusting nudity you'll ever see. And it's really bad and it's wonderful. There's also a film called Abby, which was suppressed by Warner Brothers because it is a almost scene per scene ripoff dramatically. I mean, everything's changed culturally, but of The Exorcist from an African-American standpoint, but obviously an African-American standpoint via white filmmakers who have really no clue. So I recommend if you can find a copy of Abby, which is a little bit tough because it is suppressed, definitely spin that too.
You can guarantee that every popular American horror film has at least a dozen Italian ripoffs, at least
with 24 names.
With 24 names, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it happens. Let's turn the floor over to Lorne. Lorne's got an interesting topic to discuss. The Great Pumpkin is a bad apple. Please explain.
So buckle in. We live in really divided times when people are quick to just scream at each other in grocery parking lots, to where the point where people will steal lawn signs out of people's yards, times where we have race riots in cities for the first time in decades. It seems like 2020 just tore out our souls and replaced them with a dry cinder block and said, deal with this for this year. When everything else has gone wrong, you can always count on a company like Apple to fuck it up a little worse. Let me correct myself. I was going to say an entire generation, but that's underselling it. 5 entire generations grew up watching It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, on either CBS initially or ABC afterwards. It was a rite of passage, even if you didn't particularly like cartoons. I'm not a cartoon guy. I don't really like kids' entertainment. I didn't grow up liking kids' entertainment, but The Great Pumpkin was always there. It was a staple. It was something that connected everyone. It didn't matter where you came from, what your background was. The Great Pumpkin and the innocence of Charles Schultz's creation, with that great jazz score, that upbeat attitude, that irrelevance, it spoke to every kid at some point and every adult too. Well, this year, you can't simply turn on a television set and watch it, because Apple have decided, being the new rights holders, that they're putting it on Apple Plus. Now, they are making it available for free and on their service to anyone for a whole week, because that makes all the difference in the world. That kind of still assumes that you have to either have their service or one of their devices or both. I'm sorry. I'm a capitalist at heart. You will not find anyone who believes more firmly in the idea of going out there, finding a product, marketing it, and making some change off of it. But in our society, there needs to be some things that are too important to the society at large to just make a cheap dollar off of. And this title in particular is where I am drawing my line. The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, would be one of the things that could start healing us from a year in which there's too many raised voices, too many irrational spirits, and you know what? Frankly, too much fear and paranoia. This show brings peace to everyone for its 22 minutes. Apple sequestering it into a corner, locking the closet door from so many kids, especially poor kids who have it the worst right now of anyone out there, is reprehensible behavior. This is worse than simply a matter of worrying about capitalists making money. This is people who are deciding to change the course of childhood as it goes forward. Because now, if you think this is going back to where it was, it won't. Because I guarantee Apple will make money off of this move. So, Frosty the Snowman, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, what's next? What is that thing that you consider important for every kid to experience? For me, it was always more the Halloween stuff than the Christmas stuff or the Easter stuff. Or are there Valentine's Day specials? I don't know. But we need to protect ourselves culturally in this moment. We need to tell Apple, fuck no, you can't have my Great Pumpkin. I will stand out in the pumpkin field waiting for them to return the holiday and our society to a little bit of its civility. So no, you can't force me to buy your service or buy your tablet. In fact, now you can pretty much guarantee I never will. So Raiho, you're in Canada. What do you think?
So every year I look forward to this to watch it with my kids, and I've been waiting. I've actually been checking the guide constantly. Gonna prep to PVR it or watch or whatever with them. They've been like, "When's it gonna be on, Daddy? When's it gonna be on?" And I found it one day on the guide, and I was like, "Okay, I clicked record on it." And within 2 days, I noticed that I was getting this Care Bear show, and I didn't know what was going on. Went to look, and they actually swapped it out. They changed it. I don't know how this Apple deal went down or whatever, but they're literally stripping this off of out of people's hands. They're like, if you don't own an Apple device, you can't watch this thing. I get it, it's free or whatever, and a lot of people have this stuff, but it enrages me. I went out and found the last DVD copy I could find in friggin' Canada, and I hope that Apple didn't get a cut on it. It was an old crappy DVD that I found at Walmart, so that I can have it and show it to my kids and not give them a dime, because this whole thing is just ridiculous. And I think you made a great point. We need to take this one back. I don't know. Don't watch it. Don't stream it. even if you have an Apple device, maybe skip it this year. I think it's on archive.org. You can go on there and get, I think, like every one of the specials that they have or whatever. You can go in there and watch it and pirate it, whatever you got to do.
I just
But
looked
don't
it up
give
on
them a cent on
Amazon.
this.
You can get the remastered deluxe edition DVD for $14.45. Hold on, wait a minute. Nope, no, I'm sorry. It's actually temporarily out of stock.
Oh,
I know the Blu-ray's on there with, I think it's packaged with the Christmas and Thanksgiving and maybe another one. So you could pick that up. Although I did notice that the price went on that quite, I think it went up like $15 all of a sudden too. So I don't know. They're just trying to drive you to Apple Plus. I think it's I want to use it, but it's BS.
Well,
That's what I'll say.
if there's any Charlie Brown Christmas fans out there, that DVD is available on Amazon for $11.99. Get it, because it's going next. The 4K Blu-ray is $25.76, and the regular Blu-ray is $20.61. So get that one before the end of November, or else it will be only available on Apple Plus too, I'm sure.
It's real easy for us to say, well, we'll go out and buy a copy. But that doesn't really fix the problem. What about the kid that's growing up in a household that's not even making rent, that doesn't have a working television in their house? Or if they do have a working television, they certainly don't have a streaming service. They certainly don't have a tablet. We have to protect the culture here, and then we have to draw a line in the sand. This is where I draw it.
I agree. I'm infuriated, actually, because I watched it every year of my entire life. So for one Halloween to come up and it's just not going to be available is a travesty. And it's a tradition. And I'm tired of everybody breaking traditions that I think are important. And I think that us all growing up with the Peanuts, and growing up watching their specials, it's important to us. And I think it's important to pass that on to our kids, and for our kids to pass it on to their kids. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that they're getting selfish with, content like this. It should be available for people to see, because TV used to be free. We had 3 stations, before cable, it was 3 stations, and it was free. It was public broadcast. And nowadays everything is for $1, and that's fine. I'm a capitalist, but I also think that there are some things that, that are sacred. And I believe that the Peanuts, and especially the Halloween episode, is sacred.
I wonder if this is going to be the beginning of a trend where more and more of television is taken away from television and put on some sort of streaming service. Instead of 24 hours of A Christmas Story on TNT, it'll be 24 hours of A Christmas Story on I don't know, Amazon Prime or something. Yeah, Hulu. Yeah.
Deli Ghost is asking about how this fits into my philosophies of libertarianism, and I'll tell you what, it does, because long term, if the companies are allowed to just take the cultural artifacts that have shaped us as a people and monetize them, long term that makes us less free, because we will not be able to shape our own society. I am not talking about the Gummy Bears animated series here. Okay? Yeah, okay. Make that something you have to buy for $1.99. That's fine. I just think there are things core to our culture, and that's long been recognized in our society. That's the very reason things do eventually become public domain, is because things become important enough and part of the culture enough that they shouldn't be able to be monetized in perpetuity. So I see no contradiction.
Well, let's move on. And I think Monty is going to explain to us why we all love horror.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Pierce. One of the things that I think is so great about horror is, and I know a lot of people, I'm going to use the word ghettoize horror, because they think horror turns us into homicidal lunatics, and we see one horror film, which is what people used to believe when I was a child, because I was that one kid in first grade who would be like, "Did you see Freddy's Revenge, where Freddy's head came out of his chest?" And I'd be terrifying the children, and then Mrs. Steinfurth would go and tell my mom about it. So of course that meant I was going to go and kill everybody, which I did not. I graduated school and all that. But the fun about horror is the fact that I always enjoyed the thrill that you got from it, the surprise. I just remember being terrified when we watched Return of the Living Dead. As a family, we would watch these films. Back in the 80s, we'd go to the video store, we rent them. And when Tarman came out and said brains and stuck his tongue out, I literally cracked a brick in my pants. I mean, like, I was so terrified. And I think that is the fun of horror. Horror is like when you go to the amusement park, when you go to Six Flags, or when you go to Cedar Point and you get on that roller coaster and you take that steep ride down, and it's just the thrill, the surprise of not knowing what's going to happen. I think we've lost a little bit of that with all this media and stuff like that, but that is the fun that I've always loved about horror, is the surprise. It takes you to dark places safely. You know, it's not like when you go there for real. So it's like you can watch Silence of the Lambs and you can feel what it would feel like to be an FBI profiler, or kind of sort of what it would be like to be a trainee interviewing a serial killer. So you get snippets and feels of that situation without actually having to live it for real. And also we get into the lighting, the atmosphere, just the spooky, is he coming around the corner? Is he not? That is the fun of horror. The fun of horror is not that I just want to see somebody brutalized because I'm a complete lunatic. No, it's the atmosphere. It's the meticulous detail that they put into creating this surprise for us. It takes a lot of hard work to do that. And I really feel like horror should be a lot more respected. Yes, stuff like Final Exam, I'll pick on that a little bit, is garbage. And I watch it again, like I do all the time, even though it's trash. But when you look at stuff like The Exorcist, Halloween, The Thing, House of the Devil, some newer stuff. May I even say The Devil's Rejects, Nobody Kill Me. Those have a certain level of craft to them, you know, that takes a lot of hard work. And I just think it's not appreciated. How do you all feel about loving horror so much? Those are my reasons. Excuse me. Sorry.
I wish I could sum it up easily. I don't really know why I love horror so much. It's always been there, you know. It's always been something I've been drawn to. Like even as a really young child, like the golden books I would pick, you know, would be vampire related or something, you know. So it's just always been a staple in my life. And like you said, man, people look at you like, you know, you're about to start shooting the place up, you know. I know I talked about before, you know, on the show a few years ago when I sold my house, I had my Nest Cam going and I recorded everybody's reactions. Like, they're like, man, this guy's a freak. You know, they saw my horror room, my posters and stuff, and oh, man, let's get out of here.
Well, there's definitely, you either get it or you don't. And there's a lot of people out there who really don't get it. And they think it's all blood and gore and that you just like watching people get murdered for entertainment. And that's not it. I mean, I really think every time I hear this sort of, you know, why do you love horror? I think of Wes Craven saying that horror movies are boot camps for the psyche. I always hear him say that whenever this gets brought up. And I don't know if that necessarily applies to me, because I know a lot of people have, you know, the way you face a fear is to face it head on. So if you have a fear of whatever, there's a horror movie for that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think ultimately all of horror is about the fear of death, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
And who doesn't fear death on some level?
Me.
The fear of death, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
The fear of the dark, what could be there, what possibly is there, what we don't know. I had an experience recently. I was talking to a neighbor, and she told me that her son moved to Round Rock, Texas, right? And I'm like, oh, that's where they shot Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The look she gave me. She has avoided me since then. She hasn't talked to me since that time. And I have to stop and remind myself that, I'm used to hanging out with you guys and people that are well-rounded in this, genre, and they know stuff like that. But just an average person on the street, that's really weird. I keep forgetting that the normies out there are afraid of people like us because they don't understand what Monty's talking about. Well, what attracts us to these movies? And I was the kid in high school that hung out with the 2 or 3 other guys. We listened to heavy metal, we watched horror films, and we were the weirdos.
Oh.
Everybody else was listening to Culture Club and watching, Breakfast Club and stuff, and that was the hip thing to do. And we're watching Friday the 13th and listening to what Metallica and stuff, and they're just like, what's wrong with you guys? They used to call guys like me hoods. We wore the leather jackets and listened to the music and watched the horror films. I guess we were like future criminals of the world or something, just because of what we found entertaining.
Yeah. So
I think it's really weird. It's like, I don't understand why people watch sad movies, because I don't like to be sad, right? So why would I watch something to purposely make myself depressed? But there are people that enjoy it, and that's okay. Hey, if that's what you're into, go for it. But I'd rather watch horror films because, like Monty said, you get like a charge. There's an energy to them that it's just, I don't know. It's, you either get it or you don't, I guess.
Well, you can find every genre in horror.
Right.
They call them exploitation movies for a reason. They exploit every emotion. So you can find, there's plenty of horror movies that are sad that can make you cry. There's plenty of horror movies that can make you think, that can make you. There's a lot of romantic horror movies out there. So there's a horror movie for every taste and for every genre.
I think we're looking at horror as a genre is about mortality and morality. And some of us from a very early age had an interest in exploring that because it's really the big question of our lives is, how it's going to end. So I think as you're drawn like a magnet to these ideas, we're very much in league with the oldest stories ever told. The oldest story ever told was probably a cave painting that went like this: the big cat will probably eat you. And we haven't really progressed that far from the big cat will probably eat you, to be completely honest. But for a lot of us who, at least at an early age, had a fear or at least a fascination or a curiosity with death and morality, which is the other side of it, like you see people do horrific things and you're trying to compartmentalize in your head, like, how can someone do something that I would consider evil? And these little morality plays that really form the horror genre, whether you're talking movies or books or plays or music, are an attempt to figure out how we emotionally can deal with this subject matter that should be paralyzing if you think about it. We should never leave the cave because there might be a giant cat out there. But instead, we will watch Final Destination 2 and we'll watch the big car accident on the highway that's very much like a highway we travel every day to work, because it helps us compartmentalize the random tragedies that are really just all around us and encroaching closer every day, because we're all getting older. We're all getting closer to finding out or not finding out the ultimate answer. So.
Well, who doesn't, if you're on the road and you see a logging truck in front of you, who doesn't see the beginning of Final Destination 2 play out
every single time?
Every time.
And you're the guy who's taking the log straight to the face, through the windshield into your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is not really related to the subject, but that CGI effect of that log taking out that cop, I think, is as good as anything in Jurassic Park or Terminator 2, by the way.
It is.
And it does not get the credit or the mention it deserves.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
That entire scene is a masterclass in CG.
I remember watching that in a packed house on a Friday night, going to see Final, and the crowd went nuts. Everybody's going crazy.
They nailed it because the first one started with the plane. So everybody who flies, who's a frequent flyer, they had to be crapping their pants. I've never flown in my life, but now the beginning of Final Destination 2, Oh yeah, all that. I was just like, oh crap.
See, if someone told me that, I would at least think about it for a minute. I wouldn't be like, you're crazy. That's what I'm like. Oh man, if you tell it to me, okay, I believe you, man. You know.
I had an experience one time driving on a freeway doing about 75 miles an hour in a fast lane, and there's a semi in the middle lane, and one of his tires blew and came off into my lane and smashed into the front of my car. There was nothing I could do. Literally, I'm doing 75, almost 80 miles an hour. Oh, I can go in the middle in the grass and crash, or I was right next to him, so it's either that or go into him. So I'm thinking, well, it goes under the car or it comes up in the windshield, and I'm done. And it went under the car, did about $5,000 worth of damage to my car, but I survived. But I think that watching movies like that kind of prepared me for that moment, because I just braced for impact, and hey, whatever happens, happens.
That's what I was just going to say is I think some of us, I tend to, my favorite thing about watching movies, and this doesn't just apply to horror, it applies to all storytelling. I like to learn, I like to learn what the moral is or what the message is in a story. And I think a lot of times with horror, I use it as like a risk assessment. Because, because I've had some horrible things happen in my lifetime, and I've been through a lot of things. So for me, it almost felt like a therapy, to watch something scary. I can't say it's all about that though, because if I go back, I can go all the way back to when I was a little girl, like 3 years old, and begging my mom to constantly read me Sleeping Beauty from the Grimm's Fairy Tales book, which is the darker version. And so I always gravitated towards the dark, the horror, the scarier stuff, even though I looked the part of the peppy cheerleader, and I even played that part, but I also had a little Laura Palmer in me too, where I was wearing my cheerleading uniform to parties after the game and drinking beer in my uniform and breaking all the rules. So I feel like I gravitate towards horror because I gravitate towards things that are a little bit risky and a little bit darker than what most people enjoy. And to quote David Lynch, I like to look into the dark and see what's there, so I know what to look for.
Yeah, I kind of felt like those movies prepared me for that moment. I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. I didn't crash. I mean, I saw it about to happen. I looked for options. There were no options. It was just keep the car on the road and brace for impact. And I wasn't scared. It's like the one of those Final Destination movies where the roller coaster comes off the track. I live in Central Florida, so I go to, used to go anyway, and I will be going back again to the parks that have the roller coasters. And every time I get on one, that movie pops into my head. I go, this could be my last ride, but it's been a good life. I got nothing to complain about. If I'm going to go out, it might as well be fun.
I think I use that as an example that I knew everyone could wrap their arms around. But this year there was a film called The Relic, which is my favorite film of this year. And that film is about the end of life, and it is about dementia, and it is about very real horrors that we'll all be facing. So I think it's fascinating that this genre can prepare us for kind of everything from real life road accidents to something we're definitely all going to face if we live long enough, and everything in between. In that respect, I think the horror genre needs a lot more respect, because no other genre of dramatic entertainment is really doing this hard work at all. So I just don't understand how we can't get a little bit more respect for the genre that's actually talking about the stuff that's ultimately going to be most important to us.
Right. Yeah, they always tell you, these movies will desensitize you to violence and they'll turn you into a freak. No. If anything, they desensitize you to fear.
Yeah.
And like Pizzow said, you watch these movies and it helps you deal with that fear, so that when you're in that situation, it's like you already know how to react because you've already dealt with that fear and you don't get paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
So we're not just watching movies, we're training.
We're training.
Yeah. Exactly. I was going to say, I'm sorry, Justin, were you going to go?
I was just going to say, for me also too, I mean, a horror movie has the best opportunity to entertain, has the highest potential of entertaining me than any other film, I think. So there's just that too.
Yeah.
And also too, horror is, and one thing I got into a butt with my best friend about this topic is talking about movie theaters ending because the Regals in the area are going away or whatever. Doesn't matter because I got AMC's by my house. But the thing is, watching horror in a room full of people, you cannot beat the kick of that. The kick of, okay, I'll go way back. Going to see Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers on a Friday night. And believe it or not, it was actually sold out. Hard to believe.
They gave those seats away.
Yes, they did, Christian. It was sold out that night. The crowd was drunk. I'll tell you guys about a wonderful one-liner that a articulate gentleman said. But anyway, everybody was hooping and hollering. I mean, that first kill when he took the nurse to the spike, the whole room was like, oh! And don't get me wrong, when the movie was over, everybody booed and they hated it. But the moments that the Miramax people put in, people were going nuts, and that's a fond memory for me. And I attach that to Curse of Michael Myers, is that celebratorial. It's like being in a tiger eating someone. It's like, I love it. But I'm gonna tell you guys real quick. So anyway, when Michael's choking Kara and he body slams her on the table, this was the mid-'90s, and I was a Clevelander, so Albert Bell was playing for the Indians back then, and he was doing a whole lot of crazy stuff. A gentleman stood up, and he had on a skull cap that looked like he came out of a Snoop Dogg video. He stood up in the middle of the room, and he said he was swinging that bitch like Albert Bell. And then he sat back down. And I was like, wow, that's very articulate of him. And the whole room laughed. I was like, geez, okay. But you only get that in a horror film. You don't go see a Meryl Streep movie and somebody would stand up and say something like that. So, that's the fun part about horror. It's crazy.
There just aren't really big public votes during screenings of Choice,
Exactly.
I wish my favorite memory, Monty, that reminds me, I know I'm younger, but one of my favorite memories was seeing The Strangers in the theater, and people were legit getting up and because I had never seen a movie like The Strangers up until that point. I had never seen a movie that was so realistic like and quiet, and you would see the killers in the background, and there were people getting up and running out of the theater. That was one of my favorite theater memories ever. I don't think it's ever been matched ever.
You never hear an audience member in like a romantic comedy go, buy her the dress. You never hear that. But you'll hear somebody in a horror movie go, don't run upstairs, you dumb bitch. What you doing?
Yeah.
So I mean, kiss him, you dummy. You don't hear that. Well,
that's what I said.
But it's funny how the audience genuinely roots most of the time for the characters. Like, the audience is with them. They're like, they want you to get out, until they do something stupid, and then they off with their head or his head. Excuse me, no misogyny. But that's the fun part of it. And I think I like the part, Justin, about facing your fears is what I really like. I remember being terrified by the TV movie It. Yes, that was scary back in the day, folks. It was. Now it's funny. But I remember when the kids defeated Tim Curry, I felt so empowered as a kid because I was the same age as those kids when that movie came out. And I felt like, yes, I can beat it. But then at night I was scared again thinking about Tim Curry.
It's something about that audience reaction too that really does it for me. Like, I really miss it, especially now.
Yeah. I love finding music from these movies that I haven't seen before, especially classic stuff. Whenever I watch a movie and I hear a song or something I'm in love with, I immediately. Last week I watched Cat's Eye, and this song came on in the credits, and I was just like, this is awesome. So then I had to go on YouTube and find out the song. That's my favorite thing, is when I find songs or artists. I'm a Dokken fanatic because of Dream Warriors. I had never heard of Dokken before because they're like the most famous band in the world. They're, they sold millions of records, but I never heard of them. You don't hear them on the radio. I love Dokken now. I find bands from horror movies. That's my most favorite thing, when I find songs I love. You don't find that much from Jim Carrey movies anymore or something. Well, really not much at all anymore. You don't hear a whole lot of bands being in movies, but God, horror movies and hard rock were just so hand in hand back in the day. And that's how I found the Cramps. That's how I found, God, so many acts, so many bands I love. Fastway, I'm a huge Fastway fan. So that's my favorite thing, is finding music from movies.
Well, that's a great segue into what I want to talk about tonight. And what I want to talk about is breaking the chains. Okay, Monty got it.
Oh, I know you're singing Dokken. I was okay. Do I need to sing the next line to that, or do I need to let it die? I wasn't sure what to do.
I thought everyone was trying to like decide who was going to sing it.
Yeah,
I love the.
I can't hit that note, man.
I love the Metallica story where Metallica opened for Dokken. And after Metallica left the stage, the crowd just pelted Dokken with batteries and whatever they could find.
Yeah, that was the 1988 Monsters of Rock, headlined by Van Hagar.
Van Hagar.
R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen. He was the guy of my generation. Every guy my age that picked up a guitar, he's a predominant influence.
Right.
I mean, you got Hendrix, you got Van Halen. I mean, those two guys right there redefined rock guitar. But so there was the Scorpions, Dokken.
Kingdom Come opened.
Kingdom Come opened up. They called them Kingdom Clone back then because they sounded just like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And then out comes Metallica and just tore the place up. And I remember reading stories of Dokken begging Van Halen to say, "Please let us go on after Kingdom Come, because Metallica is making us look stupid.
Too much energy, man. Yeah.
We cannot follow those guys. They're just too brutal."
Here, pass out these D batteries real quick, guys.
Metallica comes out, just tears it up, and then here comes Dokken with the breaking the chains, And they're a good band, and I really love Dokken, but they
don't
can't
follow that
Metallica.
Up. No,
you can't follow Metallica with Dokken. I mean, I love George Lynch. He's another guy, like Van Halen, that's a great guitar player, but they got screwed on that deal. I felt bad for him.
Eddie knew what he was doing. Eddie knew how to. How do you think all those Duracell was probably an ad or a sponsor that year?
Energizer bunnies just going around.
Yeah. Handing out D batteries and 9 volts to everybody.
But how many times would a band, try to get as an opening slot versus because normally you're trying to get prestige, right? And the first band is the no name, and then the second band, and then as you go up to the most, popular.
Right.
And here's Dokken trying to no, let us open for them. That was hilarious.
Yeah. You don't follow up Dokken with Metallica.
And that was back before that was. I know there's a lot of people that don't understand Metallica before the Black Album, but that's when they were just everything was a billion miles an hour, and they were just brutal.
Was that Ride the Lightning?
No, that was
Injustice for All.
Injustice Tour.
Oh, that's my favorite album.
And it's like when you look back, that band's like, let's make the most uncommercial album ever. Let's all make them epics. Let's make them 7 minutes, no chorus repeats, nothing radio friendly. Nothing radio friendly.
No bass.
I actually
no bass.
I actually think that one is probably it might be one of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah,
one is my favorite Metallica song of all time.
And that is the most commercial song on that album. The rest of them are just brutal from beginning to end. Blackened.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
I mean, I was lucky enough. I got to see him a couple times before Black Album and then after, and they really changed a lot. But and if you saw them back in those days,
you're a big Reload guy, right?
I was gonna say.
No, I jumped ship, man. I mean, after the Black Album, I was like, I'm done. I mean, I understood though. I mean, they had a good point. How were they going to be faster than they were? I mean, when was it going to get ridiculous? They felt like they'd taken it as far as they could with Injustice, because you had Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning's my favorite. I mean, they were just brutal albums, and they're like, we just can't. We're never going to be there's always going to be somebody faster, always going to be somebody more brutal. So let's just
I was
Just
going
have
to
fun
say,
with it.
I was going to say it doesn't get better than Load and Reload era Metallica, but let's not go down that.
Yeah, that's like Van Halen 3. Let's not go
On the
there.
next episode of Region Free.
But great segue into what I want to talk about, which is the importance of music in horror movies. And I think, unfortunately, that's an element of horror that gets overlooked a lot because we always think of, the effects, and we think of the kills, we think of the villain, we think of the atmosphere, we think of suspense and tension and all those things, and we don't think it necessarily. I very seldom hear people talk about the score. There's that famous story where Halloween was screened for
a college,
studios.
I think, right?
It was screened for studios, and it was before they had the music in it. And every studio said, "Oh, this is boring. This is not scary." Of course, then you add that theme, and it's a whole different story. To me, the music is just as important to creating the mood and the atmosphere as anything else. The music also can make. We were talking about exploitation and different, hitting different emotions. The music definitely is so important in that, or the lack of music. There's excellent moment. There was a movie I was watching not long ago where I forget what it was. It was a Korean film, and it was one of those classic suspense scenes where the character's walking around in the dark, and we know that there's something bad lurking in the dark, and it's building toward the crescendo of when something jumps out, and right at that point, it just the music just dropped out, and it was just completely silent. And the silence, just put a chill down my spine. Just the lack of anything, just chilled me. But I really think music is something that is imperative to a good horror film. And I wanted to mention some great scores that I don't think get enough love. The Day of the Dead score is something that I can listen to that in the car from beginning to end. I've got that on Amazon, whatever it's called, Amazon Music, the whole album. And I can just listen to that in the car. Great, great music. We all love John Carpenter stuff. We all love Halloween, but I think the Prince of Darkness score is really good and
amazing.
Really creepy.
Yes.
Yeah, super, super creepy. Candyman, the Philip Glass score.
Woo! Big time good.
It's beautiful. Woo! Absolutely beautiful. The fact that they're not bringing him back for the remake or whatever it's supposed to be is a shame. Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Boom, 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 boom. Just so simple, but incredibly effective. The Burning. I love the score for The Burning. Phantasm. Can you imagine Phantasm without that score?
Mm-mm.
I mean, think of Friday the 13th without Ki Ma Ma Ma, or the awesome score for Nightmare on Elm Street that his name escapes me at the moment.
Charles Bernstein.
Charles Bernstein did, yeah. Amazing pieces of music.
Think of Psycho without Bernard Herrmann.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jaws without John Williams.
Right.
Oh yeah. Exorcist, that had another really chilling score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those were some great scores that also The Keep, Tangerine Dream. I love the music in all of Michael Mann's films, but The Keep, of course, is really his only horror. But Tangerine Dream, everything Tangerine Dream did in the 80s was just stunning. But the Keep score is phenomenal.
I was talking about Italian horror earlier. If you see Goblin on the soundtrack, you're in for a good time, even if the movie's horrible.
Yeah, it's going to sound good at least.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those are just some scores that and just listen to them on their own. Like even I got the Death Waltz Halloween 1 through 5 box set on vinyl. And even though I've watched those movies a million times and heard those scores a million times, when you isolate just the score, you pick up on all these little nuances, even in the Friday the 13th stuff. Because really, you think Friday the 13th, you just hear Kiki Ma Ma Ma, and you think it's so simplistic. But listen to that score isolated for part 1. The part 5 score, I think Manfredini did an excellent job on that one. Just listen to that one isolated. You really pick up on a lot of nuances that you probably didn't hear while you were watching the film with the music. But I think definitely just check those out. Just kind of listen to them in the car, or if you're cleaning or whatever, you know what I mean? Play them in the background. It's I think you'll be really surprised.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know, Piz, one of the things, and everybody, one of the things that I've always done my entire life, ever since I was a 10-year-old, was I would love to get cassette movie soundtracks. That's how you know I'm old. But cassette movie soundtracks. And even back to the Fridays, and I would just listen to them. And it would just, I would get like a physical certain feeling. Piz, I want to go back to Friday 5. I love the action cues in Friday 5, like particularly when Pam is fighting Roy Jason in the barn. And I think it's like she hits him with the axe, but you can really hear how the music really revs you up. It kind of goes, and it's kind of moving to as the scene is going. And I love, and I really love the cue for when Tommy sees the vision of Jason. And then he disappears, and the music kind of just and he disappears, and it's like, wow. And I love also the score for Silence of the Lambs. When Jodie Foster confronts Buffalo Bill, and the music just swells up and it builds, and she goes freezing. Oh, I love the music. It's just the way it makes you feel.
Yeah, well, and the thing with Manfredini is everybody thinks, probably think every movie is the same score, right? But they're different scores with similar themes. But yeah, I mean, listen to part 1, listen to part 3, listen to 4, listen to 5. They've all got their own nuances. They've all got their own kind of vibe to them.
Yeah.
That separate them.
His work on House is fantastic too. The score for House is really good, and he did Deep Star 6, which I just watched, and again, you could tell it's Harry clearly, but I love that he's a big Bernard Herrmann fan, because sometimes a classic orchestral style soundtrack I love. I really do. I think it fits for certain stuff, like Hellraiser's score is orchestral and it's beautiful. It's awesome. Doug Bradley talked about that in Search of Darkness. He goes, Hellraiser has the best soundtrack, and I'm hearing him say, it's like, is it really? And then they play it, and then you're like, wait a minute, that music is absolutely amazing. So I think it just, sometimes stuff will surprise you, and when you hear, like Piz says, Angelo Badalamenti did Dream Warriors, he did the original stuff behind it, and you can hear that on Spotify or whatever, and you listen to it, and Angelo Badalamenti's a god anyway.
Oh,
but you hear it, and you hear some of the stuff he does, and it's so underneath that you don't tell, but you're like, Jesus, this is amazing. Well, one thing I love about Carpenter is, to me, he's the AC/DC of horror movies. Instead of 3 chords and like The Truth, as they say, for me, it's 3 chords and a key change, because that's what Carpenter does. He'll do something simple, then he'll change it up a key, and it's the same pattern you're hearing melodically, but he goes up a key, then he goes down 2 keys. Listen to The Fog, and that's his trademark. He does a lot, but it's amazing. I love Carpenter's simple approach to his music. I know it seems so effortless for him, but it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of his work on, like you said, Prince of Darkness. Such good stuff. Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay. Oh, his stuff in the Mouth of Madness. He purposely changed that to a rock score because he wanted it to seem in a different reality than his usual stuff. Because, the premise of it is it's not reality. It's all in a book, right? Well, so he wrote that score to be different. And I remember when I went to see it, sitting in the theater seat, and the score starts, and I'm like, what? This is not usual for John Carpenter. This is unusual score, but I liked it. I liked that rock edge. It gave something to it. And it also gave you a little start, because John Carpenter's stuff when you hear it, and that one was so different that you're like, whoa, this is going to take me on a different ride.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I also really, really like the score for Ginger Snaps. I think that music is beautiful and haunting, and it sticks with you. It sticks with you once you hear it. Also, one of the ones that I actually do like to listen to when I'm cleaning and stuff, and it does have a movie to it, but the Silent Hill score for Silent Hill 2 mostly. I really enjoy that score from that video game. It's haunting, it's beautiful, it makes you feel, and I like that. I like the fact that not just in movies but in video games too, the score matters because it'll take you into whatever feeling it wants you to be in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
And going back to John Williams, man, Jaws, Star Wars, Jurassic Park. I mean, he's done so many scores that are
Raiders.
just iconic. Raiders, but I remember being a kid. You in the 70s, you couldn't rent movies. Once you saw it in the theater, that was it for 2 years, 3 years maybe. If you're lucky to see it on TV again, right? I went out and actually got the soundtrack to Star Wars. Then I would sit there on my parents, I actually had the LP, the record, the vinyl, and I would spin that sucker and put the headphones on, and I could like relive the movie just by listening to the score.
Yep.
It was amazing. I mean, unfortunately, people nowadays aren't forced into that kind of situation, so they don't apparently feel the need to do that. But it was out of necessity that I did it, and I'm glad because it was a really great experience that I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I think it's sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Lauren. I already spoke. Go ahead, bro.
Well, I just going to say that with the horror genre and music in particular, there's basically it goes back to the stage productions of France and Germany, centuries ago when music was being used and developed to make the audience really uncomfortable to begin with the Grand Guignol performances. So there's a long tradition there. And I always love when the scores actually are providing information that the movies themselves only intimate at. I love the Herman score for Psycho is a great example of that, but more modernly, Colin Townsend's score for Haunting of Julia is brilliant because it uses a child's toy that's in the film as part of the score, but then there's also a theremin line in it that is really discordant and strange, and it makes you realize like the tone of the movie is about a ghost child. It's actually in the music. The plot is just woven. I think Ethan Johann's score to Game Over brilliantly lets you know that what you're watching. I don't even want to say what it is, but if you listen to the score and listen closely, it'll tell you what the movie is. And it's done so cleverly that it works psychologically to prepare you for the movie you're watching. George Deaton's score for Toolbox Murders, the original, is absolutely one of my favorite because as dark and sinister and gross as that movie gets, that score lets you. It is deep and dark and droning and nasty and basic and raw, and so is the movie. So I think when it works, it's because the music the music is informing the film itself. It's not just laid over to make the movie's scares work or whatever, which is why a lot of modern scores leave me really cold because you have the cat jump through the window and we have violin screech to tell you, oh, by the way, you're scared. Whereas when a
James Wan.
Exactly. But a successful score actually is talking about the cat jumping in the window for 3 minutes beforehand. They're slowly working the motifs into the music to prepare you for the scares that are coming so that they actually have impact before they hit, not the moment after. Because if they hit the moment after, they're instantly they just vanish from your psyche. It doesn't matter. It doesn't build on anything. So I think a good score used properly is important. And I think that these composers are filmmakers in their own right.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say that's one of the things that I really miss is the elongate, like the Fridays or like Jaws or Richard Donner's Superman or Batman with Michael Keaton, how you have these extended title sequences where you're just hearing score and it's just prepping you for what's happening. Matter of fact, I want to bring up a movie. Don't let anybody jump on me, but Fear with Mark Wahlberg.
Love it.
The score, I love that movie. Sleazy, fun, but the score for that movie, I don't even know who made it. I don't feel like looking it up. But the score for that movie kind of has like these really heavy drums, and it really makes you feel just uncomfortable. And I love how when that movie starts, it kind of goes dum, 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 and it's just setting you up like this world is dangerous. And when you see Mark Wahlberg with his really evil kind of, sexual kind of deviant look in his eye, and those drums kick in, you're like, this dude is about to do some nasty stuff, and that's how the music sets you up. I love the score for Fear with Mark Wahlberg. Awesome stuff.
I grew up listening to film scores. I got a special love for film scores. I mean, whether it's horror, whether it's drama, comedy, I mean, I don't care what the genre is. I mean, I live for film music and soundtracks and scores. I mean, today I was listening to the score for the Hot Shots movies. Why not?
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean, I love those movies and that music. But as far as horror is concerned, I'm telling you right now, I have listened to this score from first note to last note many, many times, and I do think it's a masterpiece. Jerry Goldsmith's score for Poltergeist. La 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 la.
Did you know,
Jamie? I think you need to accompany him with the la la la.
Yeah. Did you know that was a rejected piece of music from the Amityville Horror and Poltergeist?
Wow.
Interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say that for a crappy movie, Amityville Horror had a pretty cool soundtrack.
Hey,
yes.
I like
Yeah.
I like the la-las on that one. It was pretty.
Christian loves Amityville, so watch it.
I like it. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure of mine. If there is a such thing. I like it. A lot of people shit on it, but I like the original. The actual, the original.
I like the first three a lot.
Yeah, I like the first three a lot. I also wanted to say that, for an example of how music changes the feeling of a movie, the movie, The Blair Witch Project 2, Book of Shadows, the beginning sequence opens up with Disposable Teens by Marilyn Manson, but it was not supposed to originally. That was a Weinstein decision. The original score was Frank Sinatra, Witchcraft. And think about that for a minute. Think about how different the feeling would have been going into that movie with Witchcraft being that opening sequence. It would have changed your entire outlook and entire feeling on that movie. And I actually think it was a better choice because
I don't. I absolutely disagree with that, Jamie.
Well, that's
that movie is not a subtle movie. It's not a smooth film. I mean,
it's not put together the way it was supposed to be either, though.
I still don't get that movie. I've only seen it once.
I love that movie. I've seen it so many times. I
love that film too.
Again and again.
I love that film too. I think people would be very disappointed if they saw their long treasured director's cut. I really do. I think it's one of those cases where the studio interference had its head in the right place. They just didn't spend enough money to do it properly.
That's possible. I'm going by what I read and I heard in a video that I saw about a person who did like an in-depth thing about it. But I just think that for me personally, knowing the movie like I do, it would have changed the tongue-in-cheek manner that it really was supposed to be. It was supposed to be more tongue-in-cheek than what we got, and they made it a little more serious, which is fine. I enjoyed it the way it is. I really do. It's one of the few movies that I constantly tell people, hey, I know you don't like this, but I do. I just thought it was weird that
it shows how,
yeah,
exactly. It shows how even something as small as changing a song, at any point in the movie really can change the tone of the entire film. That's how much power.
Yeah.
That, I mean, just think of, instead of John Williams, dun 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 dun, they played the Benny Hinn theme when Jaws was attacking somebody. It'd be totally.
What would Lost Boys be without "I Still Believe"?
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
love
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Well,
my man is jamming.
The only other score I really want to mention, Andrew would kill me if I didn't bring this up because we talk about this all the time, how much he loves it. Done out of necessity because they didn't have any money. Jesus Christ, if you guys, it's impossible because I don't think they have the original tapes for it, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre's soundtrack, what have you, the noises that Toby Hooper made are absolute. I really want to curse to get my point across, but I'm not. They are amazing. The atmosphere he makes with those devices he used and the sounds he made, to elevate that film anymore, which seems impossible, he did it with those noises and sounds he made in that film. Amazing stuff.
It's perfect that it's not really a musical score. It's kind of just banging pots together, and I think like
scraping things.
Yeah, he lifted up a piano and he just kind of scratched his nails across every little segment of the, to create these odd non-musical kind of sounds for that movie that an ordinary score just wouldn't work. It would make it feel like a movie, I think.
A studio couldn't do it, man.
Yeah.
Just what those guys did. Lightning in a bottle. In a bottle.
I agree.
We mentioned John Carpenter. Anyone mentioned The Thing yet?
No, but that does have a good score too. It's very simple. That beginning part is like
dum dum.
But
it's very Carpenter-esque, even though he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And one of the only ones he didn't score himself. So that's kind of
Ennio.
Yeah.
Ennio Morricone.
And Jay, let's be real. He probably went up to the keyboard and says, "No, just do this. Doom doom. Wait a second. Doom doom. Now you can add something, but make it 3 notes. That's it."
So no, John Carpenter's a huge fan of westerns, and if you listen to the Thing score, it basically is the opening of any spaghetti western. It really is.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, let's move on. Raiho has got some Halloween horror suggestions for us this week. Go ahead, Ryan. You got the floor.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being so quiet on the score stuff, but for some reason, I love music and horror movies and stuff like that, but I don't know it. I don't think about it after. So although I will say The Thing is one that has always stuck with me, so I'm glad somebody brought it up. It's kind of a tradition around here to throw out some Halloween horror suggestions. And I'm sure like everyone on the panel is going to have lots of movies they talk about tonight that they're going to offer up as suggestions, but I had a couple that I don't know, I've watched in the last couple of weeks myself, just in my own Halloween horror binging, and I thought I would highlight them a little bit. I've got one from the 30s, one from the 60s, and one from the last couple of years. So kind of a nice spread. There's lots of variety here. The first one I wanted to talk about was The Ghoul, which came out in 1933. It's a Boris Karloff film. It's an interesting one because it's in an interesting point in his career. At this point, he had done a couple of pictures for Universal, of course, that were huge. Frankenstein, The Old Dark House, which I love, and The Mummy. And so he was kind of in a dispute with them to get some more money and to prove that he was not going to back down. When they didn't give him the money he wanted, he picked up, moved back to England, and he did this picture for the Gaumont British Company. It kind of gets overshadowed a little bit by The Mummy because it has Egyptian themes as well. But really, it's a totally different movie. It's more of like a kind of I don't know how to put it exactly, but like almost like a religious shaming movie or something like that. It's got a great cast outside of Karloff. In fact, Karloff almost doesn't do a whole lot in the movie, and he's got this really goofy makeup that it does not up to Universal standards, but he's really only in the movie a little bit. He's more like a zombie than anything else, but it's really the kind of the cast around him. There's some funny parts. There's some really great set pieces. There's like this old castle almost at the end of the movie where they spend a good portion of it. And I just think it just hits all the marks for me for like a Halloween movie. And I just really, really enjoyed watching The Ghoul the other night. So I thought I would highlight that one. Has anyone seen The Ghoul? Anybody on the panel?
Was John Hurt in that?
Absolutely no one. Yeah, of course.
Wait, was John Hurt was in that, Raya?
John Hurt, no. This one's there's a more recent one, I think. There's another movie called The Ghoul. In fact, oddly enough, I think when I brought it up on my PVR to watch it, it had the poster for like the 80s movie or something like that. Even though it's from the 30s or whatever, but yeah, I think it like I said, I think it gets overshadowed a lot by The Mummy. And also because it's not a Universal movie, I find the transfers on this one are a little like shaky. It's pretty dark. I mean, that movie is really, really dark to watch sometimes. But I think it, like I said, it hits all the marks for Halloween for me. Lauren, did you have anything you want to say, or?
Sorry, I muted myself. I couldn't find the button
That's
because I'm in. No, a lot of British films from the 30s and early 40s actually have been horrifically under-recognized in America. And it's not for language reasons. It's because the world was a little bit busy at that time. And so the domestic product got all the attention, and, you know, anything from the continent did not. And if you look, there's even entire series from Britain that have just flown way under the radar. So I'm really happy to hear you talk about it. I don't think it's a perfect film. I think it has some pacing issues.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple performances that I would say probably would be better excised from the film. But it's nice to see something done with a different perspective from that time period. It's the same reason I last year on the suggestions, maybe it was the year before, you know, I was mentioning films from China from the 30s for that reason, because you have to have some kind of variety to this stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, the next movie I wanted to talk about, it's another Karloff movie. It just happened to be that way. I'm not trying to shill Karloff, but the other night, and it's been so long since I watched it, I took in Black Sabbath from '63, which is a Bava classic. Karloff it's an anthology film. I wanted to watch an anthology movie. I think somebody brought up Cat's Eye tonight. It might have been Christian. He was talking about the score. I was thinking about watching Cat's Eye. I was trying to pick what I was going to watch, and I settled on Black Sabbath. And I'm so glad I did, because, it's got 3 great stories in it, framed with Karloff doing some really tongue-in-cheek humor and stuff like that. It's Italian, so the lighting and everything like that is just so great, and the music's so great. The first story is like a ghost story, which has some great makeup effects and stuff like that just such a throwback to like Italian horror films from that era. The second film, the story in it's really like, I don't know when Giallo movies started happening, but this has got to be one of the first. That middle story, it's kind of like it's got some supernatural elements. It's this woman getting phone calls from like an ex-lover, and he's supposed to be dead and stuff like that. But it has like, the music is really detective, like kind of like noirish almost, and it just really feels like you're watching like a real Giallo. And then the third one, which is the longest one, actually stars Karloff as well, and it's called The Warjalak, and it's kind of a vampire story, but I think it's a Tolstoy story that they kind of adapted. So it's more of like an Eastern European version of a vampire. It's not the strict, the romantic vampire we think about all the time. And some of the set designs and stuff like that, they're in like in like Gothic, like Rome, or not Rome, Italy, and there's just these amazing like broken down castles, and they light the stuff with like purples and blues and greens, and I just go absolutely ape for that stuff, and it just screams like Halloween to me. This is the kind of stuff I think of, these crazy colors and awesome old time stories with ghosts and vampires and stuff like that. So it's another one just for me hits all the marks, and I couldn't suggest it more. Has anybody watched Black Sabbath recently or anything like that they enjoy that movie?
Not recently. I like it, but not recently.
I love it.
I've never seen it. I have to watch that.
Yes.
I haven't got to that one yet. I've been going back and revisiting a lot of these older ones, but I haven't got to that one yet.
The third story is based on V, so it's been adapted a few times before, but it's not a literal adaptation. It's very liberal, but it's so friggin' good. It's so good. You can't go wrong with Bava. You just can't. Even when his heart wasn't in it, such as some of the later stuff like Bay of Blood, they're still pretty great films. So
I was so happy that I didn't, not that I have anything get Cat's Eye. It's been a while since I watched that one too, but I'm so glad I settled on Black Sabbath. I was really happy with it. And the last one, this is one that Lauren's been preaching at me for 2 years. I finally watched it. I'm sure that we've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again, and it was Hellfest.
Love
which
Hellfest.
Yeah, I not for lack of not wanting to watch it, just it never. Finally, I was like, okay, this thing is set at like a horror haunt at Halloween. I got to give this one a try. So I finally sat down and watched it. And one of the the big takeaways for me is that like there's a lot of good things going on, but I love that it's set at a haunt. I've only been to like one good haunt in my life. I don't get to go to a lot of them. This one sort of feels like it must be like almost like Universal Studios did a haunt kind of a thing. And I know some of the guys on the panel go to these things on the regular. But because of that, you get all this great practical and costume and effects and stuff like that going on around you that just make the movie that much better. That just are they're overshadowed by the actual slasher film that's going on in a way. But I mean, I found some of the characters at the start of the film to be kind of annoying, but that only made it a little bit more enjoyable when they got off as it went. Some of the dialogue was kind of like you said, they're like, oh my God, people don't talk like this. But that's par for the course with slashers, especially these days. And at the very opening of it, at the very first scene, I think they go into this apartment and it's covered in like Bessel die cut cardboard Halloween decorations, which I just thought was awesome. I love seeing that sort of stuff. And you got all the fall foliage and everything like that going on in the opening scene. And then you go into this thing and some of the kill scenes, like I wish there was like an uncut of this because I mean, that hammer scene, like I don't want to spoil anything, but some of that stuff is really, really gruesome. And there's not that many kills in it, but the ones that they have are like, I think they're really convincing and really good. And I watched it with my wife who doesn't watch horror movies, and she really enjoyed it too. The two of us sat down and we had a great night watching Hellfest. So I just think it's going to be, for me, it's going to be probably like a must watch Halloween kind of horror movie from now on. I just really, really enjoyed it. So I had to put that one over.
Raiho? After those three suggestions, I kind of feel like we're dating.
Maybe we should be.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, like I said, I have to thank you for suggesting Hellfest over and over again, because I just kind of kept letting it go, because I don't know. I had this weird feeling it was just kind of another generic slasher. I wasn't going to enjoy it. I love the killer in it, and I love the end. Like, I don't want to say anything, but the very ending of that movie was such a nice touch. I was like, I don't think I've seen that before, like that kind of, I mean, it's just a little quick kind of like hanging thing there. And I kind of hope for a sequel and like I said, it'd be nice to get like an uncut version of the movie and see some of those effects for a little longer. But yeah, really like it.
Yeah, that ending blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh, no way. Oh my gosh. I thought that was great.
I think that would be the perfect time. Like, I mean, if they released a Hellfest sequel today, I mean, they could put that in theaters, and I think it'd do gangbusters. But I think they should do like do a video on demand sequel. Spend $1 million to a video on demand sequel, and
first film only cost $5.5.
There you go.
That's a fun flick too, man. I mean, that reveal is the fun thing about Hellfest is I love what they're trying to take away now is just like everybody going to all those haunted houses and everybody dressing up in costumes and the anticipation of the fear of what you're about to see when you're waiting in line to go in the haunted house. And I just love the colors and the production design, and it very much reminded me of Tobe Hooper's The Fun House. Totally different thing, but it reminded me of it.
And if you've ever gone to like a Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, it's very, I mean, you'll think it was shot during a Universal Halloween Horror Nights.
Well, because it kind of was.
There you go.
Exactly.
Six Flags Fright Fest. So
there you go. I knew it had to be something like that. And I have to ask, because like I said, I've only been to one I think it's gotten bigger in years past. I went to like the first one. It was just like basically a haunted like corn maze kind of a thing. But did they really have like you can sign a waiver and they can like mess with you, like they can push you and shit like that? Because like that's what they did in the film. They sign a waiver and it's like they can be touched, right? And then they go into this like other section.
At some haunts they will you can. They will you sign a waiver, and I think Lauren or Christian even mentioned you have to give consent like on camera also, that that they're gonna touch you, they're gonna potentially hurt you, and they have no liability.
It's a controversial extreme haunt experience. It's
gotcha.
Not very popular, but they do exist.
So it's not like the norm. You don't go to Six Flags and there's a section off to the side where you can get
no.
Ryan,
they're not gonna
I had to ask. I was like, what is this? I thought that was just made up for the movie in a way. And I was like, you know what? This is definitely lifted from reality.
Oh, Ryan, my brother's a military guy, right?
Yeah.
He is a stone. Like, he doesn't get upset about nothing, doesn't raise his voice. You can't mess with him, right? He's like Rambo. he went to House of Shock in New Orleans, and he said it was so intense. And he says, if you're religious, you will be extremely offended. He said it's brutal. I remember my brother called me, and I was like, Trey, how was it? Because he was in New Orleans at the time. He's in North Carolina now. But I was like, how was it? He goes, Jesus. I was like, what? He goes, dude, I've never seen so many headless Marys in my life. I was like, well, what do you mean? He goes, they were spurting blood, and there was snakes everywhere, and it was intense. And when you're in line at the House of Shock, there would be, it was this huge thing. And it was the same thing. You had to sign a waiver. Mm-hmm. You have to allow people to touch you. You have to sign a waiver, all that stuff, and everything's videotaped. And when you're in line, there's bands playing, and there's a guy on a microphone saying, if you're a female organ part and you can't handle it, get the F out of here now. We're gonna hurt you, we're gonna touch you, we're gonna beat your asses, you better not be scared. Oh, and if you're religious, F you. And he was like, oh my God. And he says it's intense. He said one of the most intense things he's ever done.
I think I either mentioned this last show or very recently, where in the houses that October built, which I wasn't a fan of, they actually really interview people from extreme haunts. And there's a guy at one of these extreme haunts that goes, yeah, I want to, I want to hurt them. I don't want to kill them, but I want to get real close.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Is that the McCavey Manor guy?
I don't remember.
Well, I heard him say that before.
I had a friend of mine who worked in Mentor. This was back in the 90s, but he worked for in Painesville, towards up Cleveland. And I'm not gonna talk about it on air, but he told me some stuff from behind the scenes with some of those guys that I get a little funny about maybe people touching me in haunted houses. Particularly if you look like me. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. But because he told me some stuff about some of the people who work in this, and I was like, nah, I'm good.
Oh, that's lovely.
You're not gonna touch me.
It sounds lovely.
Yeah.
I know, I was just like, nah, I'm good. Boo is good enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't think you could pay me enough money to ever sign a waiver like that and have them do anything to me.
You touch me, I'm gonna hit you back.
Yeah.
Flat out, I'm gonna hurt you.
There's always a guy that wants to fight too. He's like waiting for someone to do. He's like, "Come on, man!"
And they're with their girls. They got to be badasses. Oh, I worked at a haunted house for 3 years. I got my ass kicked. I did. I worked a chainsaw too, and these guys would pummel me. I'm 5'10", 170 pounds. I got pummeled. I got my ass beat, man. And the most embarrassing thing is when so I'm the last room, right? And the guy who owned it, I used to be in a band with him, and he would say, just dress wherever you want. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll be Dr. Decker, which makes no sense. So I dress up like Dr. Decker, and he gives me the chainsaw. The most embarrassing thing is when, the way the haunted house was set up is there's like fake doors that the security people can pop in and say, they're coming. Because, they'll let you know. That way you don't always have to just be ready. The most embarrassing thing was when they'd come through, I'd come out with the chainsaw, and it wouldn't crank. You'd crank it a few more times. They're just like, well, that was ruined. And then they just walk out. It's the most embarrassing thing in the world. That happened way too many times, more than I'd like to admit.
You couldn't grab your chainsaw, Christian. You couldn't get it.
They make a pill for that, sir.
I was just gonna say you stole the words from my mouth. I was gonna make the same joke.
My chainsaw works.
It sounds like it needs a little more gas and oil mixture.
Well, let's turn the floor over to Christian, who's going to be talking to us about anything but Halloween.
Yeah, just so the idea of this is movie recommendations like Ryan's has, but it just off the somewhat beaten path, I guess. Just besides a Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, or Friday the 13th movie, which maybe somebody in the chat hasn't seen one of those. I don't know. But if the idea is just to recommend some odd things. So if you guys all have a couple to recommend, I think that sounds fun. I've got two I'll go through. I gotta thank my wife for making me buy this. This is a movie from '68. It's called The Devil Rides Out, which is what I love about it was I love cult horror movies. Anything that has to do with, the devil and stuff. I love the devil, right? So that movie, what I loved about it is they didn't hold back anything. They show the devil. He's in the movie, and it was really cool. Obviously, some of the effects are dated, obviously, but it's not bad looking, and it was a really cool movie. And I actually, what really was cool about this is one of Christopher Lee's favorite roles he ever did. And something about the late '60s are really cool. It just seems like a really interesting decade where there was this blend of keeping it traditional the way things were while trying to move forward, so to speak. So I've been really looking forward to dive into some of these Hammer movies from the '60s. Really cool stuff. And this movie right here, I actually fell in love with it. And it's by definition not a horror movie, but there are so many horror elements to it. And this is probably top 20 movies in the world for me right now. This is from 1993. It's called Matinee, starring John Goodman, and it is the coolest movie. So Matinee, his character's name is Lawrence Woolsey. So Lawrence Woolsey is this '50s monster movie maker, and this was when there's a time where directors did their movies regionally. So he would take his movie and go to a town. So he goes to I think it was Key West, Florida, and he's bringing his movie called Mant to this theater, and it's this great over-the-top movie about a man who gets bitten by a radioactive ant, and he turns into Mant, a giant ant. And his whole thing is when he gets to this theater, he's going to make it. If you guys have seen Popcorn in the movie theater where they have all the gags and the stuff that flies around, it reminded me so much of Popcorn. And that was just like this added bonus because John Goodman's one of my favorite actors. And what's great about this movie, so it takes place during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it takes place in Florida. So in the movie theater, I won't spoil the movie because there's a lot of moving pieces with it. But what was so cool was when Mant is starting to play in the movie theater, John Goodman packed the house for his movie. And he's got all these gags and the seats would rumble and the building would feel like it was shaking. And it was supposed to be these things that were additives to his movies. I guess you call it 4D movies is what he was trying to do. But people thought it was the Cuban Missile Crisis going on. They thought the world was starting to end. So it's chaos ensues. It's not a horror movie, but there are so many awesome horror elements to Matinee that this is one of my favorite films I've ever seen. This is a Joe Dante film, who's one of my favorite directors. It feels like Popcorn, the way it looks when they get into the movie theater, but it looks like Back to the Future in its production look because it's got the '50s look and everything. So Matinee, I would love for somebody that hasn't seen this to check this movie out. I fell in love with it, and it's got all the beats for me. Joe Dante, John Goodman, great stuff. Absolutely love Matinee. So those are two movies that you guys can check out. And for the one person who hasn't seen a Jason, Michael, or Freddy movie, just get it over with for God's sake already, But
no, don't do it.
No, do it for me.
Don't be the guy who's left.
I don't care. Whoever wants to go next, please just go next. Go around the room.
I have to say I love The Devil Rides Out. I mean, I love Hammer stuff anyway. That movie, I'm so glad you recommended that one. That whole scene where like they come upon all the like Satanists and they're out like having this like mass orgy party in the woods, and Baphomet shows up and everybody's like, it is one of the trippiest scenes you will ever see in a movie.
They didn't hold back. They did
not.
That's one thing I can't stand, Ryan. The only person that's gotten away with it for me was John with Prince of Darkness. That was it. Other than that, I can't stand it when they tease me. You know what I mean? Show me that bastard. I want to see the devil. Bring him to the light.
No, they conjured him up right there, and it's absolutely awesome. And Chris Lee, I don't think he's played more of a badass in a movie. I don't know. I know he's done it in a lot of movies, but in that particular movie, he's like, his character is literally, it's the weirdest thing. It doesn't even really make sense. He's just like this older count. And like his young friends come to visit him, and like he's like, you know what I mean, and he's just the whole movie. Nothing phases him. Not even 1 second of that anything. Like they see the devil, and he's just like, we have to keep going. Like he's just He is so stoic, and like it is. That movie is such a trip and absolutely worth a watch. I love that movie.
Yeah,
I'm sending flowers to you, Ryan.
I will accept them graciously.
Anybody want to go next?
Go ahead, Jamie. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's fine. I was just gonna say I've got a couple fun ones. And I always recommend this one. I probably said it 1,000 times to maybe even all you guys before, but I really, really like Tourist Trap. I think it's an excellent movie to watch at this time of year. It's very scary, even though people don't really see it like that. I find it disturbing, very disturbing, in a very Disney-esque kind of way. So I recommend Tourist Trap. And the other one that I recommend is Cherry Falls. Yeah. I love Cherry Falls. I fell in love with it. When I first saw it, it was Halloween 2001. And I couldn't go anywhere that Halloween. And I watched it for the first time ever. And I was like, this is awesome. It's not that it's scary. It's the acting in it is really, really good. And it's got a lot of action that I like. And I also really, really like the humor. I think it's got great humor. And who doesn't love Michael Biehn? You know, he's so cute. He's so cute as the dad. I fell in love with it. So if you guys want something that's a little scary, but also a little lighthearted and also has some funny parts to it, I say Cherry Falls and Tourist Trap.
Both are very good picks.
Thanks.
I want to jump on Cherry Falls a little bit too, in a good way. I saw that film. Jamie, did you first see it on the USA Network?
Yes.
That was where I saw it, and it was that time because I remember, me and a buddy of mine were partaking in some of that Cheech and Chong, and we were going over some girl's house, so that makes it all just great. And they were watching Cherry Falls, and they were like, they didn't care, and I saw it, and I was just like, slasher, I'm in. And to watch Cherry Falls while you have the Cheech and Chong in your blood, it is quite a different experience.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I really love Cherry Falls.
Well, interesting tidbit. Wasn't that pulled from U.S. theaters because of excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the event that took place. Columbine.
Yeah, Columbine effect.
So it's not a TV movie, but it was a American TV movie, right?
It premiered on USA. I'm pretty sure it premiered on USA.
Yeah, I think it still went. If I remember, if the special features, if I'm remembering them right on that Blu-ray, it did go to like Europe in theaters, if memory serves. But I don't know if it premiered before it premiered in America on TV.
I don't remember.
With Brittany Murphy.
Yeah,
Brittany Murphy. Yeah.
I can't recall if it was in the theaters or not because at that time I was pregnant, so I wasn't going to.
It wasn't.
No, not here, but in the UK it went to theaters. I just can't remember if it was before or after the premiere on TV in US.
Yeah, they were really fickle with stuff after Columbine, man.
Hey, Ben, Ben in the chat, do you know if it was in the UK, if it ran through the UK, Cherry Falls? I'm just curious if you know.
That movie's got creepy stuff in it.
It does.
It's got a cult following now. I think.
My favorite, favorite line is "Class dismissed." I love that.
Actually, Jay Moore was on. I think Jay Moore was on Opie and Anthony. It's on YouTube, but he was knocking that movie bad.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's not a fan of it.
Oh, he was talking mad trash about it. He was like, I was a transvestite and blah 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 blah. But I actually thought Michael Biehn was really good in that. Actually, I thought all the actors were really good, and I thought the physical look of the killer with the gray streak of hair, and I thought it was really creepy and unsettling.
Yeah,
and to be high, it jacked me up. I was like, this is freaking weird, man.
It's great that it finally got a good Blu-ray release from Scream Factory. If you're a fan of the movie, even if you've not seen it, I would recommend it. It's worth a blind buy, I think.
I agree. That's how I did it. I just went for it.
Really fun movie.
It promotes orgies too, and that's always good.
Yeah, why not?
Well, it was kind of smart that it turned the if you're a virgin, you die.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it sort of turned the old slasher trope on its head. I like.
Yeah, I like that subversion. That was good.
And I liked Brittany Murphy in the movie. Every time I see Brittany Murphy now in something after she's passed on, of course, I just kind of, I don't know why, but like this fatherly instinct kicks in, and I go, oh, that poor baby, that poor thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, oh, but sad.
She's a rad chick, man.
Yeah, and she was a triple threat too. She could act, she could dance, and she could sing. She was in Happy Feet, the little penguin movie.
Was she?
Yeah, she sings. She does all the singing, and she does the voice of the girl penguin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She can really sing.
From the director of Mad Max.
George Miller.
I've got a couple I'll shout
Exactly.
out here. We mentioned we were talking about some Italian flicks earlier today. I want to mention Burial Ground.
Oh man.
With the great Peter Bark. That is the strangest, most perverse, out there movie you've ever seen, but it is so entertaining and so fun. The Peter Bark meme that I used to play all the time during live streams, it's from that movie. It's from Burial Ground. He's an adult, but he has some kind of genetic disorder where he looks young, or his face looks like an adult, but he's got the body of it like a child. And he's wearing these like mom jeans pulled up practically under his arm. He's got a really weird relationship with his mother. And I love the movie. It's so out there, and it's all this is happening while zombies are running around eating people. But it's such a crazy. It's so bad. It's a freaking masterpiece. Nightmare City is another good one. If you guys have not seen Nightmare City, it's actually on YouTube in its entirety, and it's kind of a zombie infected person kind of movie. That's think of it as if zombies picked up weapons and were bludgeoning you and like flattening your skull, then eating you.
I prefer the title City of the Walking Dead.
The last one I'll throw out there is a movie that an 80s vampire movie that never gets any love or recognition that I'm aware of, and that's Vamp with Grace Jones, Robert Russler, Getty Watanabe.
Yeah.
Such a fun 80s vampire flick. I really I hear people like us talk about it, but I don't hear it. Yeah. It's very seldom when you're talking about 80s vampire flicks, it's always like, Lost Boys and Near Dark. Nobody brings up Vamp.
I even forgot about that one.
Vamp is so much fun.
I used to always see it at the video store all the time because I remember that Grace Jones cover with the red hair.
But there's even the one that always drew my eye. It's very simple. It's got the V, and there's like you just see the vampire's eye and a fang, and it's Vamp, and it's very simple, but it's very effective. It's a great movie.
Arrow Video put that out, guys. It's got good special features. That's if you haven't seen that, I loved it. I bought it at FYE on a whim, and I saw Robert Russler's name. And being a Nightmare fan, I was like, oh god, I gotta see anything Robert Russler's in. And I was like, Jesus, who is this Grace Jones chick? She's crazy. I love it. I mean, I knew who Grace Jones was, but amazing film. I love it. If it's weird, I love it. And that film is weird as hell.
Yeah.
Oh, that one, yeah. And then Grace Jones has scared the crap out of me since I was a kid. Man.
She has terrified me forever. And when I hear people talk about what's her name, Captain Marvel, and people go girl power, I go shit. Just watch Conan the Destroyer and watch Grace Jones. That's big. Grace Jones goes, how do you get a man? You grab him and take him.
Yeah.
Conan the Destroyer.
Well, see, Grace Jones had this weird effect on me. The first time I watched the movie, I vividly remember her striptease, and I was both a little into it, but at the same time, she was a little scary. And then, of course, she turns into the vampire, and you're like, oh snap! You know what
cool.
I mean?
Yep.
A little bit of Selma Hayek a la From Dusk Till Dawn.
I love your honesty there. I love how you said I was a little bit into it, and then I kind of,
I was into it, but I was a little scared at the same time.
Yeah, Selma
Yeah.
Hayek. I'm totally all the way in. I'm a dead man.
Me too.
I'm just like, if Selma Hayek's there, I'm dead.
I think
When
that's
she-
every man's sentiment.
And
when she went to bed. Oh, go ahead.
And I love Robert Russler. I loved him in Nightmare 2. He gets killed. I loved him in Vamp. He gets vamped. He's alive, but he's vamped. So it's just like,
He's great, man.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. I met him.
I'm sorry,
Me
Stone.
too.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, now I've forgotten. Never mind.
Come on, Stone.
Come on.
Come on, Stone. Make something up. Make something up,
I mean,
Stone.
okay. Look, I've seen Vamp many times. It is a lot of fun. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Oh, come on, Piz. Didn't the scene where she goes to bed with 67-year-old Roger Moore in A View to a Kill, didn't that set you on fire when you were a kid?
No.
Oh man,
Roger Moore hated her.
She,
Yeah,
she was.
that's true. Mhm.
Wasn't she dating Dolph Lundgren at one point? And that's how he got
Yep.
into acting. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he was just kind of there.
Oh,
He's
she
in the
took that
movie.
Oh yeah, she took that young boy and
Yeah,
used him
Mm.
and threw him back out there.
he definitely has a type. He went from her to Brigitte Nielsen,
Mm.
right? So he's into like tough ladies.
Oh yeah, man. He
Jeez.
likes his women tall and slim.
Amazon.
Mhm.
Well, that should let you know if you want to tangle with Grace Jones, you better be a Dolph Lundgren.
Oh my god.
I must
I
believe
have
you.
Ain't no regular man
I
gonna be able
have
to
to
tame
admit,
that.
guys, I mean, her and Conan the Destroyer, her saying, you just take them and you grab them. She taught me something there. She taught me something there. I mean, part of my philosophy of Jamie is based on that. I learned a lot from her.
The philosophy of Jamie.
That's right.
Mm.
Coming
quite a
soon
unified-
to Region Free.
That's what I'm talking about.
This is
Not quite a
see,
unified theory of everything. but it's working on it.
She's got a bat.
You beat them on the head, and then you take them by the hair, and you drag them into the cave. See, that's what you do.
Mhm.
Oh, that is what I'm talking about.
That's subversion for you.
Okay, I need to.
Oh, you guys like my mini bat?
It's awesome.
Yeah, my brother
Ah.
made that for me. He used to work at a bat factory, and
cool.
he made this for me to
Oh.
protect myself.
I dig it.
Cool.
I have
Just real
four
quick.
brothers, four of them, and I'm the oldest, so they wanted to make sure I could protect myself.
You go get him, Jamie.
That's right.
I have one recommendation.
Go for it.
Killer Party. You guys seen Killer Party from
Yes, I've
86?
seen that.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, but it's all cut up. It's in like 10 parts or something. But I don't know where else you can find it. I've got the VHS.
You can get there's the Warner Archive version of it that's like $10 on Amazon.
That's one I love because it's kind of a few different subgenres of horror mixed together, and just it's one you never hear people talk about either. So
No, yeah, I really like that movie too. Written by Barney Cohen, the final chapter. Yeah, that was one that used to be on television all the time as a kid, as I recall.
really,
Yeah, all the time. I just remember watching the part where the woman's crawling on the ceiling, but you can tell they just spray painted her hair up, and I was like, "That looked." I remember as a kid going, "That looked so fake." But I love that movie. It definitely needs a good quality. Vinegar Syndrome needs to step in and give that one like a 4K or something.
yeah, it makes you wonder what's going on with considering the stuff that some of these companies have put out, and that has not come out yet.
I guess Warner just holds those rights close to the chest, and they, here's your archive edition, and sorry if you want more.
Yeah. The film was originally titled April Fool, but when Paramount bought it, they decided to change it to Killer Party because they had April Fool's Day coming out.
That's a better name anyway.
There were 3 movies coming out that year that were originally titled April Fool's or April Fool's Day. So,
What were the other two? One was
April Fool's Day, and I think the other one might have been Slaughter High. Maybe
that's a good one too.
I think it was Slaughter High. I mean, I might be wrong. I'll have to look it up, but yeah.
My go-tos for the Halloween season are always Night of the Demons. Got to watch it.
Mhm.
Trick or Treat, Halloween 3.
Hold on, stop. Trick
really my
or
favorite.
treat, trick or treat.
Or trick or treat.
Trick -R.
We got to get technical here.
But no, it just is so it's so Halloween that I just love watching it around this time of year.
Me too.
I hear you.
I'm actually doing a series on alternative choices for Halloween watching on my channel. I'm actually this year I've gotten to be so tired of talking about the same titles and the same franchises. And it's a big diverse genre. We shouldn't have to go back to the same things over and over. So I'll just throw 3 titles out there quickly. I know that none of you will actually go out and watch any of them, but you're just wrong.
Lord.
So first off, I'll start with the first one I did on my series, which is Twins of Evil. It's the 3rd in the Karnstein trilogy from Hammer. It is just a breathtaking film from beginning to end. It has my choice for Peter Cushing's best performance because it's so just completely muddied in whether he's good or bad or both. It's just a wonderful film. Curse of the Crimson Altar or Crimson Cult, depending on which continent you're on. Again, a chance to see Karloff, Lee, and Barbara Steele all in the same film, though not necessarily all in the same frame. It's a wonderful psychedelic horror film that just screams Halloween to me. And yes, the ending doesn't work. I don't care. I love it anyway. And finally, 1967's Wait Until Dark, which never gets love from the horror community and is probably one of the most horrific films ever made. If you want to see Audrey Hepburn get terrorized for an hour 40, this is the movie.
I'm putting it in now, Lauren. Wait Until Dark. I'm going to watch this tonight.
There you go.
Twins of Evil.
Alan
I was
Arkin.
gonna say check out the crime scene stuff because that's.
I think I got Twins of Evil
some great-
from Synapse. I think it was them who put it out. Yeah.
You know, and I thought of a film that it's a horror-esque situation, but it's not horror per se. But a film that had Martin Sheen called The Incident on a subway train. It's a black and white film. I believe it's the late 60s, early 70s, I think. Lauren, have you seen that one called The Incident with Martin Sheen?
Is that the underground nuclear base?
No.
It's
like a film where it's Martin Sheen. And I can't remember the other gentleman's name. He an Italian actor. I can't remember his name. But anyway, they lock these people on this train and they terrorize them. And it's a black and white film. Bo Bridges is in it, a very young Bo Bridges. And, that's a good film, The Incident with Martin Sheen. You all can look that up. I really like that movie. Very tense. Very intense.
Who else? Stone, Mike, Jamie?
I had a couple. Well, one that I will always champion, my favorite haunted house flick of all time with George C. Scott,
Love
The
it.
Changeling.
Amen, brother.
We were talking about scores. That has a pretty good score, and he's a composer, so it like incorporates music into the plot. It's one I watch every year. It's my favorite haunted house movie. It's got a good story, good acting. It's just great. Another one has only been available on YouTube for a long time, but now it's on streaming, and I think it's coming out on a Blu-ray release, and that's Fade to Black with Dennis
Amazing.
Christopher.
Yeah, Fade to Black.
I still have to check that one out.
And and I know it's on Shudder right now, but that's another great one where it's just a guy with mental problems is a movie fanatic, and he takes revenge on people that just screw with him by taking the appearance of various characters in his favorite movies, and it's a really good psychological thriller. I think
It's got a young Mickey Rourke in there, early role for Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, talk about a good ending.
Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome's releasing it, so that's.
I'm gonna watch that this week, and I keep forgetting about that one. I'd never heard of it before. Shudder released it, which is crazy to me. But I remember you guys were talking about it maybe last week, and I was just like, I've never even heard of this movie. So I gotta get it on my list too.
Yeah, Lauren hit me up to it a couple months ago. I tracked it down on Shudder.
I had the old Anchor Bay VHS, it was in one of those plastic collectible
snap cases,
just out cases that you could set up, and yeah.
It's funny to see that guy go from Breaking Away to Fade to Black.
Yeah.
Who's the actor who stars in that?
Dennis Christopher.
Oh, it's Dennis Christopher.
I just knew.
who was
I was
in
like,
It?
oh, it's Eddie Spaghetti.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that is him.
Adult Eddie Spaghetti.
Yeah.
Tim Thomerson is in it.
Because that Anchor Bay release is in such the wrong ratio aspect that you're missing most of the screen at all times.
I don't. I have no idea whatever happened. I wish I still had it. I have no idea what happened to it, but that was how I first saw the movie.
That's cool.
Anchor Bay were so good for so long about getting things right for those VHS collectors, and then that release, they just, oh my god.
But good movie, very good.
So I have 2 recommendations, real quick. I'll just throw out there. Look, the last movie I saw in the theater, a great horror movie that, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, you need to catch up on it. It's The Lodge. A great movie with Riley Keough, where she wants to marry this guy, and his wife just committed suicide, and they go out in the middle of a winter wilderness to bond with the kids, and let's just say very weird things start happening, especially after he leaves and she's left there alone with the kids. I mean, The Lodge is an awesome horror movie, and granted, I still need to see The Relic, it's just Relic, right?
Relic.
Yeah, it's just Relic, not The Relic.
You can
no.
see The Relic too.
Real quick, I saw The Relic in the theaters, and I laughed my ass off. I mean, when the monster licks her at the end, I thought that was like the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway. Now,
agreed.
The other recommendation I had was my number 1 deep cut from last year. Piz, close up real quick.
Hold on.
Yes.
You got it.
All right. This is a very extremely rare copy of the Anchor Bay release of The Watcher in the Woods. This thing is long out of print. It has the original endings. It has the director's commentary. And the guy that was behind this DVD, I've kept in contact with him. And what he went through to get this released is one of the most insane stories I've ever heard in my life. But this is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And it's very underrated. And I highly encourage all of you to give it a chance, even if you get this rare Anchor Bay release, which is the right aspect ratio.
Very cool. Very cool.
Big fan of that one, Stone. I'm a big fan of that one.
Before we move on, and Stone's going to take the floor here in a minute, there's one more I wanted to mention. All this Anchor Bay talk got me thinking. The Midnight Hour, it was a TV movie from the 80s, Halloween themed TV movie. It got an Anchor Bay DVD release a million years ago.
The Midnight Hour.
What did I say?
You said, no. You didn't say it yet, but it's The Midnight Hour.
I thought I did say The Midnight Hour.
You did.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
The Midnight Hour is what we're talking about here.
The Midnight Hour. Anchor Bay, it got a DVD release a million years ago, pretty much instantly went out of print, and it's never gotten another release. It is on YouTube, and it's a lot of fun. It's definitely something to watch like on Halloween night. Really fun movie. LeVar Burton is a vampire.
You nailed it.
You sold me. Done. I'm in.
Reading Rainbow.
He's going to teach you how to read and then drink all your blood.
Yes.
Great.
I just watched it for the first time recently, and it really takes a lot from Thriller. You can see a lot of the crane shots like they did in Thriller of the dance stuff.
There's even the dance number in it.
Get dead.
Get dead. Yeah. You're dead. I'm dying. Something.
Yeah.
The big problem with that movie getting a new release is the music rights are a mess with it.
I'm sure.
It doesn't help that most of the score is made up of samples from the Smiths song "How Soon Is Now."
Yeah,
which is
and I love that too.
Endlessly.
Piz, it says that this film marks Macaulay Culkin's first screen role as an uncredited trick-or-treater.
He's the kid in the beginning with the bike.
1985.
I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Oh, with
I'm
the
seeing
mask.
it.
Put the mask on. Yeah.
Creedence Clearwater, the Three Dog Night, the Smiths. So yeah, that's probably gonna be a pain in the butt.
It'll never make enough to justify the music rights cost.
I don't know how they got it on at Anchor Bay in the first place, but it was one of those that went out of print really quickly.
They did the Charles Band. Let's just do it and see what happens.
Absolutely,
probably.
Until the cease and desist letter showed up the day later.
Yeah. That's probably why it went out of print so quickly.
Oh, it looks fun too. Looks like a little horror comedy, huh?
It is fun. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Is it the quality I recall is decent?
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Okay.
I'll try it.
I have a great bootleg of it that is like pristine. And I hate to tell people to find a bootleg, but it's probably your best bet to get the movie looking good at this point forever, because I don't see the situation changing unless they rescore it, which would destroy the movie.
Yeah, that would. Yeah. Well, let's move on. Stone, you've got the floor, sir. You're going to discuss Unsolved Mysteries Volume 2, which just dropped recently.
Yes.
And you've got a Blu-ray review. You've got it, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, well, if you remember from our episode 0, I talked about Unsolved Mysteries, how I grew up with it, and, just witnessed the progression of the show over so many years. Well, thank you very much to Kristen, who several days ago said, "Oh, they just added Volume 2 to Netflix." So I just jumped over there and pretty much watched all 6 episodes in a row. I'm going to just mention them here very briefly, and of course, I don't want to, spoil a lot of stuff. I want everybody to discover the mysteries for themselves. But the first one is Washington Insider Murder, about a guy named Jack Wheeler, who, apparently he did a lot of service to veterans. So this kind of hit home to me. He's actually the guy responsible for creating the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., of all things. Well, evidently he was found murdered in a dump. They don't know how he got there. His computer was stolen, apparently. His briefcase was stolen. And a lot of the footage that you see of him before he was found is very chilling. I mean, you see him wandering around car garages and buildings that people don't know what kind of connection he had to. But very powerful first mystery is that Washington Insider Murder. The second mystery is A Death in Oslo, and this is one of my favorite types of mysteries where a woman supposedly shot herself in this hotel room in Oslo, Norway. She had absolutely zero identification. Here's the strangest part. She was found with a bullet in her head, and the door was double locked from the inside. But the strangest thing, all the clothes that she had in there were tops. She had no bottoms whatsoever. There wasn't a single bit of clothing that she had that were pants or jeans or anything of the sort, which is really, really eerie. And of course, there's a lot of speculation. Well, is she a spy? And I've heard stories like this where, people would just, show up in a hotel room, with zero identification and just decided to go out in that manner. But why remove all the identifying marks from clothing and everything? And this was not just any hotel. This was a 5-star hotel. This was a hotel room that celebrities stayed at, where the king and queen would stay at, where Lady Gaga would stay at. And she managed to get in without having to show any identification whatsoever. Great story. I will leave it to you to discover the rest of it for yourself. Number 3, Death Row Fugitive. Very sad story about a guy who ended up on death row for murdering a little girl. And somehow the state got rid of the, not somehow, but the state got rid of the death penalty. And unfortunately, due to a special program, apparently they let him go Christmas shopping unsupervised. And he just walked away. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so he's been on the loose, on the run for like 35 years. Very powerful story. Please check it out. Number 4, Tsunami Spirits, which actually the Fukushima tragedy where so many Japanese had died, and apparently, they weren't even able to give them proper burial and funeral services because they just didn't. There was so much damage, they weren't even able to do that, and they start seeing the ghosts of all, their family members, and even converse with them. Very, very strange story. But what struck me the most about that story was the footage of the actual tsunami. I mean, just very powerful stuff. Number 5, Lady in the Lake. Another great and very weird mystery about a woman who supposedly ended up in a lake. She disappeared for several days. a woman that everybody loved, didn't seem like to have an enemy in the world, that kind of situation. And she ended up in the water many, many miles downstream. And of course, the speculation, okay, is it a suicide? Is it murder? Of course, the cops thinks it's a suicide. I will end it there. And then finally, last but not least, Stolen Kids is number 6, which is another tragic story of 2 toddlers in a New York City park who just vanished within seconds. The mothers went there. They were looking after the kids. There's so many kids playing on the playground in the park, and these 2 toddlers, they just vanish, and they haven't been seen in, here again, 30 years. Powerful missing persons case. I mean, I loved all of these unsolved mysteries. I mean, they were very well done, production value wise. I mean, I love listening to the interviews. I mean, just like Volume 1, some very powerful interviews that should move you and should make you ask questions. And of course, there's many websites that are asking the same questions right now. I was like, who was the woman in Oslo? That kind of thing. I mean, great set of mysteries. And I want to go into my second topic now, which is very related. Back in the day on Unsolved Mysteries, they did the mystery of an actor named George Reeves. Now, George Reeves was famous for playing Superman in the 1950s on the television show The Adventures of Superman. Although I'll be perfectly honest with you all, when I was growing up, I always knew George Reeves from the opening of Gone with the Wind, because he plays this redheaded, he and this twin brother, they're like redheaded twins, and they are macking on Scarlett so badly. It's almost like, well, I'm not going to go further with that, but look, I mean, he was in Gone with the Wind, he was in From Here to Eternity, he did some fairly big movies, but when he did Superman, that's when he became, a nationwide icon. Well, June 16th, 1959, he was found dead in his bedroom. Very curious evidence where he was shot in the left temple. The gun was between his feet as he laid on the bed. No fingerprints on the gun. On top of all that, the bullet casing was behind him between the bed and his back. They had to roll him over, and they actually noticed the bullet casing there. So the police ruled it a suicide. Obviously, questions started sprouting up about, he was in this double love triangle at one point. He had gotten involved with the wife of an MGM executive for a number of years, and then he broke it off and ended up with a party girl named Lenore Lemon. And there's a lot of speculation as to whether it was suicide, if it was a murder, or if it was an accident. And it's considered Hollywood's greatest unsolved mystery. Now, for me, when I first saw the story, and Unsolved Mysteries was when I first saw it, I always got the impression that, like, for example, Lenore Lemon, they accuse her of basically shooting him by accident. What I didn't understand was, okay, well, if she might have shot him by accident, why isn't it possible that she could have intentionally shot him as well? The other speculation is that because he had a very open house, that somebody could have come over and killed him. And the idea is that Eddie Mannix, the MGM executive, got so tired of his wife's grieving after breaking up with George Reeves that he basically sent somebody to knock him off. And so for 60 long years, or longer than that, obviously, this has been one of the great unsolved mysteries. I mean, a lot of people don't remember George Reeves now, and but the thing is that, I mean, his story has obviously garnered a lot of attention, and a lot of sleuths have looked at the everything. And Jim Beaver, he wrote quote unquote, he wrote the definitive biography of George Reeves, although it's never been published. When he was interviewed on Unsolved Mysteries, he actually provided an adequate explanation for the suicide, where I said to myself, you know what? I buy that. He was going through a midlife crisis. You know, that would have been a huge trigger for that. At the same time, regardless of how he died, the thing is, in 2006, Piz, quick close up.
There you go.
Thank you. We had this movie come out in theaters, and not many people saw it. It's called Hollywoodland. It stars Adrian Brody as a detective, and Ben Affleck as George Reeves. So George Reeves, Ben Affleck played George Reeves' Superman years before he was cast as Batman in Batman v Superman. And on top of all that, Tony Mannix, who is the wife of the MGM executive who Reeves was having an affair with, is played by Diane Lane, who, of course, ended up playing Martha Kent in Batman v Superman and the rest of the movie. So now you know why he said that name. Okay? Now you know why he said that name. Now, I saw Hollywoodland in the theaters. Of course, this was right up my alley. I had to see this movie. It looked really good, and I remember Ben Affleck being at like the nadir of his career at that time, because this was after, you know, the whole Ben Affleck, Julia Lopez thing. This was after Jersey Girl tanked and Geely and everything. He wasn't doing very well at the time, but let me tell you right now, Ben Affleck, when I saw him in Hollywoodland, I was convinced that he was actually George Reeves, and I mean that from the standpoint that he not only watched all of the episodes, everything that he wore in terms of jewelry, in terms of clothing, cigarettes, all that stuff. He even memorized Reeves's voice and would listen to it right before going out and shooting his scenes. And just a magnificent, magnificent performance. And to this day, I still think it's Ben Affleck's greatest performance on film in Hollywoodland. And when I saw it in the theater, I remember that I was probably the youngest one there. And I remember being surrounded by ladies and gentlemen in their 50s and 60s. Not much older than that, but mostly 50s and 60s. And looking back on it, I realize now, wow, I bet a lot of these people were kids in the 1950s and probably watched George Reeves play Superman on television. And one of the things that the movie brings up, one of the powerful key things is, imagine if you're a parent in the 50s. How do you explain to your son that Superman killed himself? Or even that he died? How do you explain that? How do you even communicate that? And that's one of the most powerful things in the movie, which I'm not going to spoil. But at the same time, I thought to myself, man, all these people I went to see the movie with, they wanted answers. They wanted some comfort. They wanted peace. And I'm pretty sure that they found it. I mean, and like I said, what Jamie was alluding to earlier as to how we fall in love with movies in the first place. I mean, I've said before, period pieces have been huge for me because I've always thought that movies is the only possible way that we could travel through time. Every minute in Hollywoodland, I felt like I was in the 1950s, and I felt it wasn't overdone in any particular way. Is everything factual? Not exactly. Not exactly. But at the same time, I would like to quote Mr. Jim Beaver, who is still writing the definitive biography. He's been working on George Reeves' life for like 40 years. It's been like his life's work is essentially. But I just want to quote him real quick as to his response to the movie. As someone who has spent a number of years preparing the definitive biography of actor George Reeves, I approached this film with great trepidation. I had previously turned down several offers for the film rights to my own book because I felt it unlikely that those projects would result in a film truthful to the essence of the man I'd come to know so well. All I can say is that the makers of Hollywoodland came as close as is to humanly possible in the real world of movie making to achieve exactly what I could have hoped for. An examination of George Reeves' life and death that is true to the times he lived in, true to the kind of man I found him to be, and as true as possible to the most likely scenarios that have been projected to explain his death. While this is not a biography nor a documentary, and while adhering to each and every fact of Reeves' life would have resulted in a film exactly as long as his life, the artists here have done a powerful and affecting job of telling Reeves' story and have framed it in a fictional setting that illuminates rather than obscures the truth. And just real quick, the bonus features on this brand new Blu-ray, which came out only a month ago, courtesy of Kino Lorber. We have an audio commentary with director Alan Coulter, who, if I remember correctly, he directed many episodes of The Sopranos. An audio commentary by entertainment journalist and author Brian Reisman, who I mentioned before for doing a commentary for Gotcha. And another shout out to Christian. He also did an audio commentary for the brand new release of The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. So he's been doing a lot of audio commentaries for Kino Lorber recently. And this has also Recreating Old Hollywood, Hollywood Then and Now, Behind the Headlines, several deleted scenes, and finally a theatrical trailer. I cannot recommend Hollywood Land highly enough, particularly if you are a DC fan. I mean, I have been asking DC fans for years, have you seen Hollywoodland? For God, of all the movies out there, it's like, no, they never saw it. And the last thing I will add before I give it to the floor of anybody who wants to chip in on Reeves or anything. Now it just left my brain, but oh yes, the DC thing. You know, it kind of amazes me that this was released by Universal Pictures, and the original title was Truth, Justice, and the American Way. But unfortunately, Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to Superman, they had certain stipulations, and they said, no, you can't use that title, so they changed it to Hollywoodland, which is a tad generic, but I think it is appropriate to the story and obviously to George Reeves. So, at any rate, anybody else would like to chime in, please do so.
Just love
I think
Kino
that is an
Lorber.
interest. Yeah, they're putting out a lot of good stuff. But I wanted to,
A lot of good stuff.
You imagine, like, telling your kid, well, Superman is dead. But wait, Superman can't die.
Yeah.
I thought Superman was faster than a speeding bullet.
Well, apparently not.
Sorry, that was a bad joke. But seriously, I mean, you're explaining to your kid, like, Superman's dead, and that's what happened to the Superman show? Why is it Superman's gone?
I know something a little interesting about
Jay?
that. The incident with George Reeves where the kid was holding the gun on him.
Yes.
That incident inspired M. Night Shyamalan in Unbreakable to do the scene with the son holding the gun on the father. That inspired him to do that scene. That's where that scene originates from.
And just real quick,
Jay, are you eating?
Oh,
Jay, are you snacking in the middle of this conversation?
No, absolutely not.
Who the hell do you think you are?
And just real quick, just real quick, that's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie where he's in a Superman costume and he's just entertaining the kids out on some ranch somewhere, and this little kid comes out with a gun, and it's like, "Hey, Superman, can I shoot you?" And Ben Affleck looks inside the gun and he sees bullets in it. He's like, "Oh." Yeah. It's like, oh shit. Maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Great scene, and in a movie filled with great scenes in it. And Bob Hoskins in Who Framed Roger Rabbit as the detective, he plays Eddie Mannix, and he is brilliant too. Adrian Brody is the detective, Louis Simo, and of course Diane Lane as Tony Mannix. All four of them are terrific, but Ben Affleck stands out, obviously.
He does.
Yeah. Bob Hoskins was a great actor. R.I.P. Bob Hoskins.
He was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an Amish hat, Lauren? You're muted.
I also can't hear anything because I have a hat on. No, DJ Donnelly wanted to know if I wear hats in winter, so I just happen to have this hat here. So I thought I'd just rock the hat. There's not good enough lighting to see the hat.
No, it honestly looks like it's just a black
Oh, it's a top hat. Stylish.
There we go.
That's how you got to keep your soul warm.
It's dapper.
Oh,
it's very
Lord,
dapper.
Lord. That's badass.
But I can also pass as either a pilgrim or Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, that looks like From Hell.
That's why Lauren's always giving out grapes to the ladies in New Jersey. To lure them into his buggy.
That's hilarious.
You know what? That sounds like a great world to live in compared to 2020. I don't care what you say.
Very well done, Stone. Very well done. I'm definitely looking forward to Unsolved Mysteries Volume 2. I've not watched it yet, but it is definitely on my list. Cannot wait.
Wonderful.
It's great.
Awesome.
It's a shame that it's all real, but it's great.
Jamie is next up. Jamie's going to be talking about. You just go ahead and introduce it, Jamie.
All right. This is a review from my heart. That's what I'm going to be calling my segments when I do these little reviews. That's going to be a review from my heart. So, the Rob Zombie Halloween movies have a reputation for being bad movies. That's fully understandable, and to each their own. But personally, I think they're good, and especially the first one. The use of music is brilliant, except for Love Hurts. That's the only song that I'm like, what? That is just, why? It could have been a better song. I think he could have picked a better song. But I love the use of his music. I love the way he uses music in most of his films. And in Halloween 1, not so much as in Halloween 2, but in Halloween 1, it's really good. I also like the way he uses industrial sounds during the murder scenes. If you listen in the background, you can hear he uses some industrial sounds. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but he uses some very, intense industrial sounds during the stabbing scenes. And especially the one I noticed the most is the one where he's taping the father up and he cuts the stepfather's neck, because it just goes brr, 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 like that, and it's just intense, and I really, really like it. Let's see, where was I? Linda's boyfriend's death is very faithful. It's a very faithful recreation of the original, but it still has the zombie flair, which I really enjoy, because he's being respectful to the original, but he also made it his own, putting it in the way that he did. Annie puts up a really good fight. I enjoy the fact that she's screaming for Laurie. I thought that was a genius move on Rob Zombie's part, to have her worried about her friend. So she's like, Laurie, trying to get her attention while she's calling an ambulance because she's worried about her friend. I thought the dynamic there was excellent, and the acting on Daniel Harris's part is outstanding. Tyler Mane is a boss. He is my favorite Michael Myers of all time. I love how brutal he is. I love how he walks. I love how he carries himself. I'm not so fond of the grunting and stuff in part 2. He does a lot of grunting when he's killing people in part 2, and I'm not a fan of it, but I understand why it's there, and I will explain that later. Dee Wallace, Malcolm McDowell's performances, outstanding. All of the acting is outstanding, if you ask me, in both films. I like the dynamic between the characters. I think that the characters are a lot more likable in the Rob Zombie films because their dialogue, to me, is a lot more realistic than I think in the original one. I think it's way more realistic for me as a woman my friends and I walk down the street, some guys looking, hey honey, you want to look at you want a little young stuff? That's totally me and my friends. Absolutely. I mean, that is totally realistic. I actually love the dialogue between people. I love the relationships between the characters, the relationships between Dee Wallace and Scout Taylor Compton. I thought was very mother-daughter, very cute and endearing. The relationship between her father and mother is very endearing. The cinematography in both films, outstanding, fantastic. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to look at. And that is the thing that I love about Rob Zombie is it's his vulgarness in his dialogue doesn't bother me so much, because if you look at his movies, he has his own style. And that's, to me, very important in a director. I want to see a movie and know just by looking at it, that this is a particular person's movie, the way it is with Kubrick, the way it is with Lynch. I look at a movie from Rob Zombie and I can see that is a Rob Zombie movie just by looking. You could have all the sound off and I would know. I like the blocking. I like the angles. I really do think, especially in the first one, it was absolutely genius. Where was I? I already talked about that. Oh, the kitchen scene, Monty.
Yes.
You asked me a question about the kitchen scene, and you asked me what my favorite line from that scene is. And
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, I picked one out. I'm going to tell you what it is. My favorite line is, maybe I'll choke the chicken, purge my snork all over those flappy. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, Jamie.
Gross.
And to me, that is the funniest. I laugh. And her response is even better, because she turns around and she says, I hope she likes cripples, which I think is awesome and genius. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now, part two is grittier. Part two. Cut it out.
Hey, Jamie, do not be bothered by him. He's 5'1". You keep going.
I can kick his ass.
There
Did you just run and print that?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Now, part two, I don't care for as much as part one. I think part one is actually truly a masterpiece. Part two, though, I get what he's trying to do. I understand it. I know he wanted to do his own thing. And I am actually glad that he did try to do his own thing. I would rather see him, try to come up with something new, maybe, and maybe tie it more into our own times than, just stick to the formula that worked before. So there's parts I like about it and parts I don't. I already kind of told you mostly about the parts that I do like about it. Some of the things that I don't like about it is the White Horse dream sequences. I don't know if he's paying tribute to Twin Peaks, David Lynch, or what he's trying to do, but the dream sequences just take me right out of the movie and make me angry, to be honest, because I don't feel like they belong. I understand why he's doing it. I understand what he's trying to show, but it really just it doesn't work totally for me. Where was I? I don't like the child replacement of the Michael Myers child character. Horrible choice. Too cute. doesn't look like the kid. It doesn't talk like the kid. I was very disappointed that they didn't pick somebody who looked more like the original young Michael. The nasty corpse talk. No. No. Ick. Why was that there? Please. Can you explain that to me, Rob Zombie? Please tell me why it's there.
I can explain it to you.
Those are the kinds of conversations Rob has with his friends.
I can explain it to you, Jamie. I can explain it to you. He said he did not want to do another one, so he did everything he could to make the film so ridiculously insane that he wouldn't have to do another one. I'm serious.
I believe that.
I think he really did.
But I'll hold off. I'll hold off.
The pizza scene at the table between Sheriff Brackett, Annie, and Lori is so endearing and so wonderful. And Brad Dourif is such a good actor, and he's so cute when he's going like rah 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 at the pizza. Now I watched the theatrical cut. I don't like the intermittent cut with the cannibalism. It was disturbing and made me feel icky. So I really didn't. It was hard for me to handle that juxtaposition with the two on top of each other, because I just thought it took the love that I was feeling at the kitchen table between the three of them, and just wrecked it. Where was I? Why is there so much reference to meat? Do you guys notice that? Meat is referenced in the movie over and over and over again. No meat on the pizza, but he wants the meat, and he's eating like a cannibal. He's eating raw meat. It just seems like meat seems to be some sort of, he's referencing something, but I haven't figured out what.
Him and his wife are vegans.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he and Sherry Zombie are vegans.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The final chase reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre's final chase. I really like that. I thought it was excellent. I like the music during it. I think it's exciting and it's fast paced. But once they get into that shed, the whole thing gets blown. I do not like the end at all. I hated Lori putting on the mask and going outside, and then seeing her at the end in the crazy room. I was horrified. I was angry, but I understand why. And here's what I'm going to tell you about that now. What he's trying to say, I think, is evil is passed down through trauma, through families, and it can cause pent up anger, which that explains the grunting and the viciousness in Michael's kills. That explains Lori's inability to control her anger when she gets upset, about everything. She starts out the movie upset, which is fine. And I get it. I think he could have done a better job at getting this message across about trauma and the effect it has on families, and passing it down from, person to person in a family. I think what he's trying to say is that evil is not only made, but it can be born just by being born into the wrong family. And I think that the key is manage your anger, lest you become a monster. That's it.
I'll say this. I've gone on record many times about how I feel about Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I do like, and I will defend, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I do like how crazy and psychedelic and out there that movie is. That's the Rob Zombie's Halloween that I thought I was going to get with the remake.
Right.
So I mean, I dig it. I dig the out there, over the top kind of stuff. Even the white horse. I'll take the white horse imagery. I'll take that. Get rid of those paper thin friends that work in the record store with her. They don't need to be in the movie. Just throw them out the window, and you know what I mean. The rest of it, you mentioned that dinner table scene. One thing I do like about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is that now the characters are actually interesting, I think, because they're all damaged.
Yeah.
They're all completely screwed up.
Yeah.
They have a mountain to climb.
Yeah. So that makes them interesting to me. And then you've got Brad Dourif there, who's just trying to. He's sort of the typical dad who he wants to do well, but he doesn't know how.
Right.
So I do love his performance in Halloween 2 when he finds Danielle Harris dead. Oof. He's very good. He really adds a lot of weight to that. He's such a good actor, and he can be in anything, and it just elevates it.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot of things I do legitimately like about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I like the opening, the whole dream sequence that's like, in the hospital with the Moody Blues song playing.
Yes.
I'm all for that. I like that. But yeah, I'll defend Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I can't go there with the remake though.
I agreed with 3 things that you said.
Please.
Brad Dourif is the bomb.
Load it up, Mike.
No. Brad Dourif is the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
The films made me angry and they made me feel icky. And I'll leave it at that.
Jamie, you know what I loved in his Halloween 2 was the fact that Loomis did what all American doctors probably want to do: profit off of it. Screw trying to stop evil. Right. He wanted to profit. I thought that was really interesting that he did something different with that character. The more I watch Rob Zombie's Halloween, specifically 2, I'm like Piz. I love how insane 2 is. The more I watch 2, the more I always enjoy it. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't. Not that you were trying to at all, Jamie. You're just getting your thoughts out there. I have no qualms to argue with people about why I think it's good and somebody doesn't. I don't care. I like a lot of movies that people may not aren't fan favorites. But the more I watch Halloween 2, the more I love it for how identifiable it is. The more I watch Halloween 2018, the less I like it. So I would rather on a desert island be stuck with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 over Halloween 2018 every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
Yep, me too.
I was gonna say,
I actually cannot argue with that point.
Yeah.
Because at least it's doing its own thing. You've got I'm sorry, but one last thing. You got so many Halloween movies. At least it did something weird and different. It was its own thing. It can't be mistaken for anything else. It's only Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
But this isn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is Halloween.
I don't care. To me, that makes no fucking difference, Jay. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I don't care. It doesn't matter that it's Halloween. To me, that is Halloween. To me, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is Halloween. It makes no difference for me whether it's Texas or Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. Yeah, I don't hold it like a Bible. I don't hold the original Halloween like a Bible. You can do whatever you want for me.
That's what I mean. Like, I like the fact that he wanted to throw his own flavor in there. It is a Rob Zombie movie. I mean, it looks like a Rob Zombie movie. Even though the first one is more of a faithful, remake in some ways, I still think that it's a Rob Zombie movie when you look at it. I mean, come on, when Joe Grizzly gets out of his truck, it's to Rush. It's awesome. I love that. It is great. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I absolutely really enjoy Laurie stabbing Michael in the face like over and over and over again. I know that's really brutal of me to say, but I really liked it. I really did. I was like, yeah, get him in the face.
You know what? I noticed the more distance that I've had from Halloween 2, because when I very first saw it in the theater, I really, really, really hated it. But now as the years have gone on and the distance from it, I do enjoy it for how nutty it is. It's absolutely insane. And it is fun to watch. And I will say, because I'm depraved, the whole necrophiliac thing, and I agree with you, Jamie. It shouldn't be there, but I do appreciate Rob just saying, like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw that in there, just because I want to just gross out my audience. And matter of fact, and I agree with you, Christian. I think that maybe Rob might have had his hands so tied on the first remake that when he made number 2, he was like, I'm gonna get you bastards back, and he just created this nutty thing, and it's a crazy wacky movie. I do like, and they shot that in film, didn't they? Halloween 2, Rob Zombies.
I think they did. I'm pretty
I
sure. I'm not
don't
positive.
think so.
I know he
was
liked.
it not?
I know he Three from Hell was not shot in film. I know he liked using film. I know he shot Devil's Rejects in 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
The Halloweens, though, I'm not sure. Knowing Rob, because he
Okay.
was. If you watch those special, if you watch the behind the scenes on his movies, that dude is involved in almost too much of every aspect of his filmmaking. So
It shows.
whatever
Yeah.
he
Shows a
wanted
lot.
to do.
Jay.
Yeah, well, and I hear you, Jay.
I
I hear
haven't
you.
got started yet, Monty. I haven't said anything yet.
Yeah,
bro.
so.
Oh,
But yeah,
all right.
I don't know. I could find out, but I know that he likes film. But it really just depends on whatever he just. I don't know what he did on those two. I can't remember.
I know y'all don't like totally agree, and I know y'all don't like him, and that's fine. I know y'all have talked about this until you're like blue in the face, so I get it.
Right.
It's just that I'm new, and this is my Halloween show, so I really, really wanted to get my feelings about Rob Zombie's Halloweens out there because I personally have never been able to talk about them before, so I was kind of excited to do that. So thank you guys for letting me do that.
I think it was ballsy on your part, knowing that we're not big fans of those movies, to defend them.
But you're definitely entitled to your opinion. Obviously, we all have different opinions on stuff, so that's cool.
I hide my balls.
I had a Devil's Rejects poster that was recalled that had a quote from someone, "Balls out," and they recalled it because it wasn't appropriate or whatever.
What?
I would have kept it. Did you keep it?
Devil's Rejects. Worried about propriety.
More skull F's.
Did you keep that, Jay?
Yeah, I've still got it. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I think the main problem I have with Halloween, I'll just talk about the original one because I don't really want to talk about part two, is how excited I was for it. Because I was a huge Rob Zombie fan since Las Exorcisto, Devil Music Volume #1 came out. So I knew who this guy was, and I was excited to see not Devil's Rejects, A House of 1,000 Corpses when he first made his first film. I loved all that stuff, and I was just so excited to see this. I was like, cool, he's going to do a great job, and I was just really disappointed when I saw it to begin with. It was probably one of the worst theater experiences I've ever had because I was so excited to see it.
There was an enormous amount of hype for that because he'd had House of 1,000 Corpses out, he'd done Devil's Rejects, so the thought was, okay, they're gonna remake these classic movies that we love. What better person to make one than a fellow horror fan?
Mm-hmm.
That was, and everybody most horror fans really like, not just horror fans. The Devil's Rejects was huge with everybody, not just horror fans. Even critically, that movie was praised. Roger Ebert loved that movie. Yeah. So that movie had a lot of fanfare. House of 1,000 Corpses was big, I think, with the horror fans. So, there was a lot of hype going into that movie. A lot of hype.
Right.
And the thing with Rob, I think I like the fact that Rob just does his own vision completely and does not care what anybody else thinks.
Well, and he even I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike. When he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, he was talking about making Halloween and how basically everything was compromised. Like the Weinsteins were all over him about every little thing. After he gave an example, and it was something so minuscule, like I don't even remember what it was, like the color of the carpet or something dumb like that. They wanted to control even the tiniest little things in the movie. And phone calls all the time from them and suggestions and this and that. And no wonder. He it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Clearly they must have gave them carte blanche with part two, because I can't imagine them going, a white horse. What the? That's not going to play in the Midwest to those idiots.
After he said he's never going to make a sequel. After he said he's never going to make a remake.
Right.
Speaking of the white horse,
he's certainly put his foot in his mouth, Jay. That we can agree, because he said remaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like sacrilege, and then he did Halloween. But then, the money talks, and he probably got paid pretty good.
I wish he had done something original instead of doing Halloween.
I'm sure he does too, in a sense.
Well, and something else that I don't know how this is really brought up, but it almost seemed like even while making that movie, and especially when he was on the the tour to market it, to promote it, I'm sorry, he talked down about the original Halloween a lot. Like, this that never made sense to me. That never made sense to me. Dr. Loomis just kind of acts like a drunk. I don't know what they were doing there. I don't like that. I don't like this. And that really, I mean, that put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths too.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough white trash in here. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I remember that because I remember he would say things about like they would ask him questions about Donald Pleasance, and he'd be like, "Oh, I don't care about that." And then he said something about the jumpsuit looking thin, and I was kind of thinking to myself like, "Man, this guy's kind of ragging on it a little bit." Yeah. I don't know. As a fan, I didn't really appreciate that. You know,
but I mean,
Michael Myers
being clean.
Michael Myers doesn't have to be a 7-foot tall wrestler to be intimidating. In the original movie, he's a short guy, you know?
Yeah.
As much.
Well, that was Carpenter's vision, that he could be anybody. He could disappear in a crowd. He wasn't supposed to. When you see him, you're not supposed to be afraid of him. By the time you're afraid of him, it's too late. If you've, as much as I disliked the first one, I did watch the 4-hour making of on that DVD that came out years and years ago. And you can see, like, during some of those reshoots, his heart's just not in it because they've completely compromised what he wanted to do. And he's having to reshoot a good chunk of his movie that he doesn't feel like needs to be reshot. So he's just kind of standing around. And literally there's one point where he's just standing around kicking dirt. Literally kicking dirt.
Yeah.
I remember he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan asked him, what comes to mind when you think of your Halloween movie? He said, studio interference. He said it was literally the worst experience of his life.
Well, too, you notice, I don't think he did any majors.
And I'm a fan of Zombies music. Saw White Zombie in concert. Loved his first 2 films. So I didn't go into it, hating Rob Zombie, and I still don't. I just don't like his vision for the films. That's all. But to each their own.
I mean,
are you guys ready for a giveaway?
Yeah. Jamie has got a giveaway.
Yes, this is a giveaway for the Firefly trilogy. All three movies. It's a digital download. I got it when I bought the other one. So I don't have one for the Halloween movies. So I thought instead, because I won't use this, we'll do a little giveaway.
Much better choice.
Right. So whoever answers my question properly and correctly in the chat, the first person, if you get to me on Twitter at Jamie Kisses on Twitter, I will give you the code. And here is the question. Each movie plays a different song over the end credits. I'm talking about the Halloween movies now. Each movie plays a different song over the end credits. Name those 2 songs. And the first person who names them right gets the code.
All right, there you go.
I'm
watching the chat. Yes, very intently.
Do any of you guys know what they are?
DJ Donnelly says Limp Bizkit's Nookie and Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff. No, DJ.
Ding, 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 ding.
Give the man the code.
Who can Google the fastest, folks?
Gotta have them. Gotta have them both.
Yeah.
DJ can't just have one. Gotta have them both.
That's just one. Two songs.
Come on, guys. It's not that hard. I've mentioned it before. I mentioned the song already tonight.
There's a lot of I can hear the clicking.
Yeah. It's further.
Is this too hard?
No.
Captain Halloween's comment is funny.
It really shouldn't be. Full shine on and some crap from Creed. That's funny. That is pretty funny. Some crap from Creed.
That's awesome.
Can you believe Creed was on a Halloween movie, for God's sake?
It was 98, man.
Only in the 90s.
98 was a strange.
I think it was "What's This Life For" was the song in Halloween H2O. What's his life for?
DJ 2 has credit scene 2, and it's not that song. No. There's a different song that plays on part 2's credits. Come on, somebody get it. It's not that hard. It's really easy. Actually.
Can you take me higher?
That's pretty good.
That was that. You crushed it.
No.
Matt says to be treated right in Seat of Memory. That's incorrect.
Oh my gosh, this is way too. Of course, I'm talking about the remakes. What else would I be talking
we're talking
about?
remakes. That's what she was.
Creed has
Nobody
a new song
can even
dropping
look
this
these
stream
up and
live.
find them out.
Well, you know what? I kind of appreciate that they aren't just shown on Google. And
That's true.
True.
But at this point, someone's
I'll
up on
repeat
Google.
I'll repeat the question.
Please repeat. Yeah.
Whoever can Google it fast enough. Come on.
Each Rob Zombie Halloween movie plays a different song over the end credits. Name the 2 songs.
Something about Jefferson Airplane, probably.
This might be a good spot for a VPN plug, Piz. To search these answers anonymously online, go to sharkvpn.piz.
Surfshark.deals/Pizout. Enter code Pizout.
Yes, Captain Halloween gets it.
You got it.
Good job. Good
Love
job.
Hurts and Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman in part 1, Love Hurts in part 2. That is correct. Get with me on Twitter at Jamie Kisses, and I will send you the code.
Good job, Captain Halloween.
Congratulations.
You did mention Love Hurts earlier, too.
Yeah.
I did. That's what I'm saying. I mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I can't believe these people aren't getting it.
Well done. Well done, Keith. All right. Let's see. What have we got next? Jay. We were talking about Creed a little while ago. This plays right into what you're talking about.
Absolutely. I've actually had quite a few opportunities tonight. Strangely enough, some of these topics have been brought up more than usual. But I'm going to be talking about rocksploitation. If you guys don't know what that is, it is a subgenre of horror that basically just deals with heavy metal stuff. And I'm not a big fan of musicals. It's probably my least favorite genre of film. But I found these, and I found a list, and there's actually 70 of these things. I know you're probably thinking you can name a few. And we'll go ahead and get started. We'll dig into this list here. The first one I have is Trick or Treat. That has been mentioned multiple times tonight and in the chat. Trick or Treat. And this is, I know Christian was going off on Fastway earlier, so
yeah,
we'll get there. But that's probably the number one people think of, and that's a great film, I think. And then we'll get into Rock and Roll Nightmare, not to be confused with Hard Rock Nightmare. Rock and Roll Nightmare has got a big roided up guy who is their guitar player, and that's a good film. Wild Zero is a good one from Japan. That's probably one of my favorites on this list. It's got, what do you want? It's got zombies, it's got aliens. Come on, rock and roll. It's awesome. Black Roses, which I watched again today. I love Black Roses. It's kind of cheesy at parts, but a lot of these movies are really bad.
Hell yes.
There's 70, so I'd say maybe half of them are worth watching. Rocktober Blood, that's another good one.
Mm-hmm.
Hack-O-Lantern is one that I recently watched. It's full of twists and turns and red herrings, so that one will keep you guessing. And that's not that great either, but it's a lot of fun. And this is one I know you guys are going to enjoy: Slumber Party Massacre 2 with the drill guitar.
Yep.
Love that one.
Yes, sir.
Crystal Bernard, what's not to love? And Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park. That's
God bless
one
you for that.
that people always tend to bring up. And then talking about Kiss, we'll talk about a Kiss ripoff film, Terror on Tour, which is another film that's not that great, but they totally rip off Kiss's makeup in there, and I think it's just hilarious. And another one, a werewolf rocksploitation film, Lone Wolf from 1988. That's another good one. That is on Prime right now. Dream Maniac from 86.
Not Lone Wolf
good
McQuaid.
Not Lone Wolf McQuaid, just Lone Wolf. Dream Maniac I don't recommend, but that's another one.
Okay.
And then we'll get to some newer film series you guys may not have thought of that would be on this list, but Green Room with the
Great movie.
Oh yeah,
Patrick Stewart is a neo-Nazi. What's not to love?
Oh,
Awesome movie.
great.
Rest in peace, Anton Yelchin. We
very well done.
lost you too soon, buddy. Another film from New Zealand, not Australia. I didn't make that mistake. New Zealand, Deathgasm.
Amen.
Great film, horror comedy, really funny. I need to watch that one again, actually.
Yeah.
And Suck from 2009.
I love that one. I do. I bought the soundtrack.
It's where the whole group kind of gets turned into vampires eventually. That's kind of cool. And last but not least, my favorite film on this list, Hard Rock Zombies. Love Hard Rock Zombies. Can't say it enough. It's a so bad it's good type movie, but I still love it anyway.
Very cool.
Trying to run through these pretty quickly because I know we're running a little bit long tonight.
Does anybody else have any favorite rocksploitation films that Jay didn't mention?
Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Good one. Good one.
I have to say, I actually like The Apple. I know it's crazy and out there, but I really, really like it. I like that crazy and out there kind of thing. I've seen that movie a bunch of times.
That's the Cannon guys, right?
I think so, yes.
Would
Repo Golden directed
count?
Yeah, I guess Repo would count, wouldn't it? But that's really more of a straightforward musical, I think, than some of these just are kind of just.
Well, it's a rock opera.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it counts. But just something fun. I came across these movies and I was like, I just was blown away at how many there were, and I've still got quite a few to get through here. But a lot of these are on YouTube, so if you guys are looking for these, they're kind of, obscure, out of print DVDs and stuff. So you can find a lot of them on YouTube.
Very cool.
Anybody mention the horrible but epic Rock and Roll Nightmare?
Did I not?
Good one.
I think you did, Jay. I think you did.
Yeah.
So I had to step away, so I don't know. That's why I asked.
I love Rock and Roll Nightmare too.
Me too.
He doesn't wear a shirt the entire movie, right?
Yeah,
Just
of course not.
shirt. Well, I mean, I guess if you're built like that, shirts.
Why would you? Yeah.
Why would
I
you?
didn't
wear
know
a shirt?
Thor was Canadian, but apparently it's true.
Well, let's go around the room here. Let's talk about what you guys are all working on for October. If you've got any plans for your channels for the rest of this month, for Halloween particularly. Christian, what's going on over on your channel?
It's different every day, Piz. Like I told you the other night, I'm an idea guy. I throw stuff against the wall. If it sticks, I keep doing it. Like today I did 5 Blu-rays you can go get in stores right now. And it did really well, and people were like, please keep doing that. I'm going to do that. I'm a top 5 junkie. 5 movies I want you to see. 5 Blu-rays I want you to own. I'll review movies. All kinds of stuff. I just have fun. Talk about movies I want to talk about. And that's really it. It's just I wouldn't call myself a variety channel. And every now and again I'll retrospect a movie and try to talk about why I love it instead of just saying the plot is good and the story is good. So I do all kinds of fun stuff, man. It's an ADD channel. Every day it's whatever I've cook up in my head, I'll do it.
Cool. Very
That's
cool.
it.
What's going on over on your channel, Monty?
I'm doing a lot of finishing up my Armathon. I'm gonna go up to Terminator 3. That's where I'm gonna stop, which I think is a perfect place. And I'm going to be reviewing some horror movies for the rest of October. And then I'm going to review some holiday films and then some more B-grade action films. And I'm going to dissect them and interact with my audience. And I am taking recommendations for what they want me to review.
Awesome.
Very well done. Very well done. Who did we lose?
Mike had to roll.
Oh, Mike. Okay.
Oh, Mike bounced? Okay.
Let's see what's going on over on your channel, Lauren.
Well, on Saturday I have Ann Devela Cardinal on. She's one of the premier Latin American horror writers at the moment. And then on Monday I follow that up with Rick Reed, who in the early 90s made a huge splash on the horror literary scene with his Del Abyss books.
Wait, Rick Rude?
Rick Reed.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ravishing Rick Rude.
No, this is a person who can form sentences. It's a little different.
Listen, you never heard him cut a promo. Okay, he'll tear you apart. All right.
But also, I have the remainder of my Halloween autopsies for the Halloween series. That'll be sprinkled out through right up to Halloween. On Halloween night, I will be doing that dreaded Halloween 2018. And I also have started doing a series of suggestions for alternatives people can watch on Halloween night, as opposed to just going back to the same titles that we just always talk about. And honestly, I'm just bored with.
Jamie, what's going on over your channel?
Well, I'm just getting started, like I said the last time. Right now I'm working on premises for different things. I'm coming up with ideas about things that I want to do. And one of the ideas that I have is, because I named my channel Jamie's Heart, I'm going to be doing Jamie's Reviews from the Heart. So my reviews will be very in-depth, and all the movies that I choose will be ones that I absolutely love, because I think the basis of my channel is going to be my sharing things that I love with everyone, rather than anything that I hate, which I don't really want to do. I want to share things that I love. So from the heart.
Share the
And
love.
that's why, my kiss, has a heart coming out and everything. I wear hearts. It's my signature. It's my signature shape.
There you
That's
go.
it. That's it.
There you go. Right on. Riley, what's going on over your channel?
We'll see about the channel. I don't know if we'll have any videos up in the next little while, but I do have some stuff actually during the show. So I do some freelance work occasionally for Pixel Elixir, which is a great site if you're looking for really great t-shirts, pins, stuff like that. They do have blog posts and stuff like that they do. And so I did a dissection of the movie The Guest. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but I sat down and I went through every Halloween decoration in it, and I identified it and broke it down. And it dropped while this was happening tonight, so you can check that out at Pixel Elixir. And they also produce a really good podcast called Bite Size Frights, which is they kind of take real life stories. There's a little bit of a fictional element to it, and then they break down the real kind of story. And I've written a couple of them, and I have one. I think it's actually going to hit this weekend, which I was surprised by. I thought it was going to be next week, which is actually literally breaking down kind of Halloween and its origins and stuff like that. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'll drop links for all that stuff as it goes in the next, like I said, next couple of days, I think.
Very cool. What about you, Stingray? What's going on over in your channel?
Well, guys, I actually finally got off my butt, and I had a bunch of stuff planned for these past couple of weeks, but some stuff came up and it didn't get to happen. But I do have stuff coming, so keep an eye on my channel. It's going to be more stuff coming, and check out. You can check me out on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, Jay the Stingray, and check out The Final Dungeon. It's a video game podcast that I'm a part of. Check out Plateau TV. Check out the movie discussion Pocket Dimension. All those links are on my YouTube channel if you want to find them there.
And Stone, what's up with your website, man?
Well, my website is basically my Twitter page at Stone Gasman, and that's where I usually hang out. I mean, the thing is, I work so many hours during the week, I don't even have time for a channel, and I'm working on a book project. So, but I still, at my website, stonegasman.com, I still post the odd review and doing my Twitter challenge for the time being, and that's about it.
Very cool. I've got a Halloween 5 live commentary with Jeremy tomorrow at 1 p.m. That'll be fun.
Okay.
On the 28th, Alan Howarth is coming on my channel. To talk about the importance of music in Hira. I'm also working on something with one of the masters of horror for next month. So that's a possibility. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. It should be fun. And then of course we're doing our on Halloween Day at 1 p.m. Me and Jeremy's doing our costumed Halloween stream. All treats, no tricks, giving away a couple of hockey masks, a couple of the
very cool.
Couple of these things.
All right.
What else? I think we had a couple other things we were going to give away too. But I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so that'll be fun. Halloween Day.
What's Jeremy going as this year?
Jeremy's Prince.
Oh,
He's gonna be Prince. And his Prince costume with his wig on is unbelievable.
Game blouse,
dude. Yes,
unbelievable. He looks, it's insane. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, so Alan Howarth on the 28th, and yeah, working on getting a Master of Horror on the channel, which will
Can't
be
wait for
very
the giveaway, Piz. Piz is gonna be
Giveaway.
like Oprah. You get a mask, and you get a mask, and you get a mask, and you get a mask.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure how I'm going to give the things away, other than maybe doing a trivia thing, or just, I don't know, randomly select people who are in the chat. I don't know. I'll figure it out by then.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
So, yeah. All right. Well, that's it. We wish you guys a very, very happy Halloween, a very safe, a very happy, a very horror movie filled Halloween this year. And we are going to be posting some patron exclusive content next week in the lead up to Halloween. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for that if you are a patron. If you are not a patron, patreon.com/regionfree. Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Thank all of you on the panel for hanging out tonight and talking Halloween. It's always a blast. And thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, so until next month, we will see you then. Be safe. And yeah, take care.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
You get a mask.